Chapter 23:13. Heavens! Heavens! God! That's why it's not that 3 first-rank nascent soul cultivators overturned the entire Heaven Gen sect and the Shui family. Rather, 3 core formation cultivators overturned all the nascent soul and leaving aperture cultivators in the entire secret territory. These unfettered 7 demons, in the end, what kind of frightening evildoers are they? Linglong Island, 2 days ago. Buzz. The alchemy furnace vibrates, emitting a sweet and provocative fragrance. The veiled Lung Qingwan stares at Leng Yuexia as she takes out a sparkling snow-white elixir from the alchemy furnace. Her face can't help but reveal a hopeful and longing light. Leng Yuexia looks at the elixir in her hand, and she also can't help but reveal an excited expression. The magnificent quicksand is finally refined. Whether I, Leng Yuexia, and Tian Yi Men can make a comeback depends on this elixir. Master! Master! Lung Qingwan crawls on her knees and hugs Leng Yuexia's thigh. Master, you said to let me take this magnificent quicksand. Let me have the same beauty as Jun Mayan. Let me become the mistress of the polar domain. Master, I swear, as long as you give me this magnificent quicksand, I will be unswervingly loyal to you in the future. Leng Yuexia condescendingly looks at her, firmly grasping the elixir in her hand. Lung Qingwan touches her face that's full of scars under her veil that won't heal. She wants to rush over and directly snatch it. But she doesn't dare. Ever since that day in the Tian Yi Men's underground tunnel, she's been extremely afraid of this master. Lung Qingwan wails, Master, these days the people of Linglong Island completely look down on us. It's clear that you've given us our Tian Yi Men's top secret pill formula, the magnificent quicksand, but they still treat us like dogs. But if your disciple can become the emperor's woman, then Master will be able to stand high above us, trample all of those snobbish fellows under your feet, and ruthlessly take revenge. But, Master, what do you say? Lung Qingwan's words make Leng Yuexia's complexion turn extremely gloomy. At that time, she was being hunted by the entire Xiuxian continent in the polar domain. She had nowhere else to go, so she came to Linglong Island to seek shelter. Linglong Island is also a force belonging to the polar domain. But the status of the island master, Yu Yanran, was extremely high. No matter what she did, the polar domain would never interfere. Most importantly, the Linglong Island was the sworn enemy of the Kamikaze sect. In addition, Leng Yuexia holds a lot of Tian Yi Men's unique secret recipes in her hands. It even included magnificent quicksand, which was rumored to have been lost in history. She was sure that Linglong Island would take her in and cooperate with her. Everything was just as Leng Yuexia had expected. The island master of the Linglong Island, Yu Yanran, was in seclusion, but the vice island master, Huang Shouchuan, seeing the things she offered, really took them in. But soon, Leng Yuexia found out that this wasn't shelter at all, but a disguised form of house arrest. The people of Linglong Island did not allow them to go out. The moment Leng Yuexia raised her objection, Huang Shouchuan used the excuse that Island Master Yu Yanran was in seclusion and could not accommodate the two of them. Huang Shouchuan was taken aback. He immediately said that he would throw the two of them out. He wanted them to perish under the pursuit of the polar domain. Huang Shouchuan's attitude directly affected the servants of Linglong Island. In this period of time, the servants of Linglong Island simply did not put the two of them, master and disciple, in their eyes. The food that was served every day, not to mention immortal energy, there was not even a trace of spiritual energy. Moreover, it would often go bad. Leng Yuexia wanted to collect the elixirs and immortal medicines to refine the magnificent quicksand. She could only lower her voice and even sell her beauty to an old servant. Baidu search UC Book League website and let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all of which were updated in seconds. Chapter 23:14. She was the dignified sect master of Tian Yi Men. For so many years, she had been high and mighty, being flattered and looked up to. But now, he had fallen to such a state. How could Leng Yuexia not hate him? But so what if he hated her? She was now a street rat. Once she left Linglong Island, she would die without a burial. But what if Leng Qingwan can really seduce Di Mingju? At that time, the polar domain would be hers, and the entire Xiuxian continent would be hers. Those who had given her face and humiliated her on Linglong Island, she could trample on them one by one and make them beg for mercy like ants. Thinking of this, Ling Yuxia's eyes shone brightly. She lowered her head to look at Leng Qingwan, whose face was filled with longing. Suddenly, she reached out and grabbed Leng Qingwan's chin, stuffing a blood-red pill into her mouth. Cough, cough, cough. Leng Qingwan desperately coughed, trying to spit out what she had swallowed. Master, what did you feed me? Leng Yuexia sneered. If you want the magnificent quicksand, I naturally have to guarantee that you won't betray me. What you just swallowed was the child of the Wang Liang Gu. In this world, only I have the mother Gu. In other words, from the moment you consumed the Wang Liang Gu's child Gu, your life is in my hands. Leng Qingwan's face revealed a frightened expression. Wang Liang Gu. As the next head of Tianyi men, of course she knew what the Wang Liang Gu was. After consuming the Wang Liang Gu, her life was completely in Ling Yuexia's hands. If Leng Yuexia wanted to kill her, it would be as easy as flipping his palm. But if she wanted to resist, her soul would be devoured by the Wang Liang Gu and she would die. Moreover, if Leng Yuexia died, she wouldn't be able to live either. Leng Qingwan originally planned to wait until she marries Di Mingju, then let Di Mingju quietly kill Ling Yuexia's little schemes. But now, this little scheme of his had been completely destroyed, and he didn't dare to raise it in the slightest. Leng Yuexia looked at her frightened expression and revealed a satisfied expression. Only then did she hand the magnificent quicksand to Leng Qingwan. This time, Leng Qingwan couldn't wait to pounce over and swallow it in one gulp. 2 hours later, Leng Qingwan held the eyebrow pencil and carefully drew on her eyebrows. Her eyes revealed a look of excitement and pride. The woman in the bronze mirror had peach blossom eyes that rippled like water, and her appearance was peerlessly beautiful. However, this face was clearly not Leng Qingwan's. On the contrary, she was already 50 to 60% similar to Mu Yan. As she watched, the expression on Leng Qingwan's face changed to one of hatred and unwillingness. What he hated was the true owner of this face, Jun Mayan. Although this bitch was already dead. But as long as she thought of the humiliation and pain she had brought to herself, Leng Qingwan couldn't help but want to drag that slut out again and dismember her body into 1,000 pieces 100 times. What he was unwilling to accept was that Lu Ruoxuan's catalyst was too inferior, causing the effect of the magnificent flowing sand to be greatly reduced. She and Jun Mayan's appearance are only 50 to 60% similar. If she could become exactly like Jun Mayan, how could Di Jun not be smitten when he sees her? However, 5 to 6 points was enough. After all, that bitch was already dead, wasn't she? He was the only one in the world who had such beauty. Behind Leng Qingwan, Ling Yuexia was also staring at Leng Qingwan's face in the mirror. Her eyes flashed with jealousy and unwillingness. Such a devastatingly beautiful appearance reminded her of that slut, Bailey Yinlu. Bailey Yinlu had seduced the soul of her beloved man. In the end, he actually abandoned her and lived together with that slut. Chapter 23:15. Slut. Slut. Those who come from the god musicians are all sluts. But fortunately, the god musicians are now extinct. Even their only inheritor died in Leng Qingya's hands. Bailey Yinlu, what's the use of struggling at death's door to leave behind an inheritance? Now your soul can only fly away and scatter, dying with hatred. Bang! Just then, the room's door is suddenly pushed open. A manservant of Linglong Island bursts in, coldly saying, Leng Yuexia, Leng Qingyan, Deputy Island Master Huang wants you to go immediately. Hurry up, don't let Deputy Island Master Huang wait for too long. That condescending tone, like ordering a servant, makes Ling Yuexia's face twist. But in the end she swallows her anger and follows. As soon as Huang Shouchuan sees the two, he gets straight to the point. You said that you once killed a remnant of the Xin musicians in the Yanwu continent. Leng Qingwan immediately says, that's right, I killed that slut with my own hands. Huang Shouchuan slightly narrows his eyes, his face revealing a mocking expression. Just now, the spirit bell rang again. Moreover, the sound of the bell was much louder than the first time, and the fluctuations of the heavenly demon's power were also far stronger than the first time. What? That's impossible? Leng Qingya screams, I saw that slut being struck to death by lightning with my own eyes. She can't still be alive, she's dead. She must be dead. Even an immortal like her was seriously injured by that terrible lightning, not to mention that slut's insignificant mortal body. Huang Shouchuan sneers, I don't care what you did back then, whether that person you speak of is dead or not. But the Shen musicians are my Linglong Island's mortal enemies. No matter what, we must clean up the remnants of the Shen musicians. Didn't you want to rely on Linglong Island? His gaze faintly sweeps over Leng Qingwan and Leng Yuexia, lowering his voice. Now, this seat will give you a chance. You two immediately go to the Xiuzhen continent and clean up all the remnants of the Shen musicians. In the future, you will be a part of Linglong Island. I can ask the island master to let the polar domains spare your lives. Leng Yuexia is startled. But in her heart, she has an irreconcilable hatred for all the descendants of the Shen musicians. Therefore, to be able to personally kill the remnants of the Shen musicians, she is more than willing. Then I'd like to ask Deputy Island Master Huang to lend me the treasure of my island of Linglong, the Mirror of Illusions. Huang Shouchuan sneered and thought to himself, if I had the Mirror of Illusions, would I still need you 2 pieces of trash to go down there? However, he did not reveal anything on his face. He said calmly, I accidentally lost the Mirror of Illusions. You two can go on like this. Are you kidding me? This time, Leng Yuexia really couldn't sit still anymore. I'm already a Xian immortal. Without the protection of a treasure that can break through the barrier, my soul will be injured and my strength will be greatly reduced. Don't you have void immortals and golden immortals on your Linglong Island? Why didn't you send them? On the Xiuzhen continent, the cultivation levels of immortals were Hollow Immortal, Golden Immortal, Profound Immortal, Immortal King, Immortal Venerable, and Immortal Emperor. Immortals below the high-level Golden Immortal realm had a certain chance of being torn apart by the space-time rift when passing through the spatial barrier, but it was very likely that they could still pass through safely. But for immortals above the high-level Golden Immortal realm, once they touched the space-time barrier, it would inevitably cause the barrier to fluctuate violently. If they didn't have the protection of treasures like the Mirror of Heaven and Earth and the Mirror of Illusions, when passing through the spatial barrier, they would inevitably suffer heavy injuries. If it was light, their cultivation would regress. If it was heavy, they would die. Chapter 23:16. Leng Yuexia had always been selfish and afraid of death, so how could she be willing to put herself in danger? Huang Shouchuan looked at her disdainfully. Every disciple of Linglong Island, including mystic immortals and golden immortals, is precious. How can you bet on such a small chance? If he died inside, with Yanran's kind nature, wouldn't she be heartbroken? Moreover, he had just witnessed Qin Peng's soul lamp being extinguished. Qin Peng had the Mirror of Illusions and was a profound immortal, but he still died in the cultivation continent. It was clear that there was an unknown danger in that place. How could the disciples of the Linglong Island be killed in such a place? Leng Yuexia was trembling with anger. The people of Linglong Island couldn't be sacrificed, so he, Leng Yuexia, could be sacrificed at will. In her entire life, she had never suffered such humiliation. She gritted her teeth and said, "What if I don't go?" Huang Shouchuan's eyes were filled with coldness. My Linglong Island never keeps idle people. If you refuse to go down, then don't blame us for chopping off your heads and sending them directly to the polar domain. On the contrary, if you kill the remnants of the Shen musicians, when the island master comes out, he will certainly reward you handsomely. Leng Yuexia wanted to scream and fly into a rage. However, Leng Qingwan firmly held her back. Master, calm down. We must not go against the Linglong Island now. We can only wait for me to attract the Emperor's heart. Only then will it be time for us to take revenge. Leng Qingwan's eyes, which were hidden under her veil, flickered with a brilliant light of determination. She lowers her voice and says, the most important thing right now is to determine whether that slut, that Jun Mayan, is still alive or not. Leng Yuexia's heart trembled, then she shot a resentful gaze towards Leng Qingwan. Trash. You can't even handle a mortal from the Yanwu continent. Leng Qingwan's heart is filled with resentment, but she doesn't dare to show it. She only pleads in a low voice, Master, only this disciple can replace Jun Mayan and win Jun Shang's heart. Only then can our Tianyi men be revitalized once again, and only then can you avenge today's humiliation. And to replace Jun Mayan, to become the one and only existence in Di Jun's mind. The first premise is that Jun Mayan, that slut, must die. Moreover, Leng Qingwan had another thought in her mind. If Jun Mayan was really still alive and in the Xiuzhen continent, then wouldn't the emperor also be there? She gently caressed her smooth and delicate face under the veil. Leng Qingya's eyes shone with excitement. As long as Jun Mayan was eliminated, she would appear in front of Di Jun with this peerless beauty. The monarch will definitely fall head over heels for me. From now on, she would have a meteoric rise and become the true mistress of the polar domain. That's right, it definitely will. The golden crow was as fast as lightning, but it was as steady as a mountain. Therefore, Mu Yen and the other two felt that they had returned to the starry school in the blink of an eye. Upon seeing them return safely, Meng Baichuan heaved a sigh of relief. It's good that you returned alive. It's good that you returned alive. Are there any injuries on your body? Let the Academy's doctors take a good look. Word of what had happened in the Woodfern's secret realm had already spread throughout the Violet Cloud world. However, it was clear that the Azure Blue realm had not heard the news yet. When Meng Baichuan saw them return safely, he thought that they were lucky to return alive from the mystic realm. He also didn't ask the three of them about their gains on this trip. Wasn't it a blessing to be able to stay alive? Mu Yen smiled, took out a storage ring, and threw it to Meng Baichuan. Chapter 23:17. College Chief Meng, these are the things we got from the Woodfern's secret realm, Mu Yen said. They're the most useful for the students and teachers of Starry School. The items in the Woodfern's secret realm were all high-level treasures suitable for nascent soul and astral projection cultivators. Mu Yen also picked for a long time before he managed to pull out some of the less valuable ones and place them all in the storage ring. It wasn't that she was stingy, but the cultivation levels of the Starry School's teachers and students were too low. Even if she gave them the high-level natural treasures, they wouldn't be able to use them now. On the contrary, it was an innocent man who got into trouble because of his wealth, causing trouble for no reason. Meng Baichuan received the storage ring in a daze. When he looked inside, he sucked in a breath of cold air. What was this? A small mountain of green mist grass, 6th-tier Buddha fruit, violet fireflower. These were things that couldn't be bought even with crystals in the Azure Blue world. Not to mention, there were bundles upon bundles of spiritual weapons and bottles upon bottles of elixirs. Mu Yen, where did this come from? Luo Yu grinned and said, Dean Meng, are you talking nonsense? We just came back from the Woodfern's secret realm. Other than snatching it, where else could it have come from? With that he yawned. It's fine. We'll return to the Alcade branch first. This time, when the three of us sneaked out, I wonder how angry eldest senior brother is. At the mention of this, the three of them withered. First senior brother was scary when he was angry. Meng Baichuan came back to his senses and said hurriedly, Are you looking for your brothers? They're not in the Alcade branch? Half a month ago, they received a message from your master and returned to the Qingyun world. The three of them looked at each other. First senior brother and the others had returned to the Xiaoyao school? Why would Master Shi Qing suddenly send them a message? It can't be that something happened, right? Seeing their strange expressions, Meng Baichuan hurriedly said, Don't worry. They didn't look worried when they left. It should be something normal. Mu Yen and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Especially Luo Yu. Shi Qing had practically single-handedly raised him. To him, Shi Qing was his master. He was like a father or a grandfather. If something happened to Shi Qing, he simply couldn't imagine it. Seeing the worry in Luo Yu and Leng Yuma's eyes, Mu Yen decisively said, I will go to the Hellfire Valley first. We will return to the Xiaoyao sect tonight. Commander of the Ink Camp, Yen Houghton, greets Miss. Great Void Battalion Commander Bai Yichen greets Miss. Heavenly Secret Battalion Commander Ru Yen greets Young Mistress. Longevity Camps Commander Feng Haitang greets Young Miss. Looking at the four people kneeling in front of her, Mu Yan's heart is in turmoil. In the Yenwu continent, the scene of Yen Haoyan swearing allegiance to her seems to still appear before her eyes. After them were Ru Yen, Feng Haitang, and Bai Yichen. After her rebirth, apart from Xiao Bao, these people had been accompanying her through ups and downs. Regardless of whether they were separated by life or death, neither could make them abandon him. When they took the spirit-molding pill and ascended to the strange cultivation continent, didn't they think that the road ahead was uncertain? No, they must have thought about it. However, they chased after him without hesitation. After seeing the colorful world of the cultivation continent and receiving the help of the Zhu family, didn't they know the power and beauty of power? No, they knew. However, no one chose to abandon him or leave. Mu Yan knows that it wasn't them who owed her, but she owed them. Chapter 23:18. And now, she finally had the ability to repay them. The Tian Emochin slowly appears in her hands, and her fingertips gently pluck the strings. Under the moonlight, the girl's voice seemed so clear, bright, and warm. Yen Haoyan Ruyin, Feng Haitang Bai Yichen, I'm going to think of a way to help you shed your mortal bodies and change your bones, completely changing the attribute of your spirit roots. This process might be very painful and dangerous. If you can't endure it, you might degenerate into a mortal. But if you can endure it, you will have a wider sky and climb to a higher peak. Are you willing to give it a try? The four of them were stunned. They looked at each other and saw the excitement and ecstasy in each other's eyes. Mu Yan treated everyone in the Nether Flame Army extremely well. She was so poor that she did not even have a single spar, but the resources she gave to the Nether Flame Army had never been cut off. It had only been a year since the Nether Flame Army had ascended to the cultivation continent, but everyone's cultivation had already reached the 5th level of Enidia and above. Yen Haoyan and the other three had already reached the peak of Enidia. However, from then on, they fell into a bottleneck and were unable to break through. This was the inherent limitation of the body. Apart from Mu Yan and Xiao Bao, all the people who grew up in the Yenwu continent have their bodies corroded by the air of desolation all year round. Day after day, their spirit roots have long become unbearably mottled, and their Dantian sea of consciousness is filled with the air of primal chaos. Such a body was not much better than a mortal's. It was something that could not be changed no matter how many pills one consumed or how much spiritual energy one poured into it. Yen Haoyan and the others were disappointed and blamed themselves, but they did not resent him, because they knew that they were already much, much luckier than others. It was just that it was a pity that it was unable to become stronger and could only become a burden. It was impossible for it to stay by Miss and Little Master's side. But now, the young Miss was telling them that they could be reborn and continue to improve. The sudden joy was like a tidal wave washing over their heads, making them almost unable to think. After calming down, the four of them chose to give it a try without any hesitation. The sound of the zither rang out slowly. The sweat on the four of them flowed down like rain, drenching their clothes. Everyone had a pained expression on their faces. However, there was not a single person who cried out in pain. 2 hours have passed. When Mayan loosens the strings, her hands are almost powerless to tremble. His dantian was completely empty, almost all of his spiritual power and divine sense had been consumed. But a bright smile bloomed on her face. Success! The spirit roots of Yen Haoyan and the other three had undergone a complete transformation. From then on, the golden core or fasting stage would no longer be a bottleneck for them. As long as they were willing to work hard, as long as they had enough pills, they would climb up step by step all the way to the peak. Born in the Yenwu continent, the impure spiritual roots of mortals can no longer become their shackles. Miss, your grace of rebirth. When Ru Yan's voice came out, she realized that she couldn't stop crying. 2 streams of tears flowed down Feng Haitang's cheeks as she knelt on the ground. The 2 men, Yen Haoyan and Bai Yichen, did not cry. Instead, they clenched their right fists tightly against their left chests and kowtowed towards Mayan. If we fail to repay miskindness in this life, we will be consigned to eternal damnation, abandoned by both heaven and man. Yen Haotian clearly couldn't speak, but his chapped lips actually rubbed against each other and produced a clear sound. Baidu search UC Book League website, let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all updated in seconds. Chapter 23:19. Bai Yichen even held the token of love between him and Lin Sidong in his hand. That represented his determination that he would never go against even if he died. Mu Yan's smile is warm, but her expression is indifferent. You don't need to be deeply grateful to me. In fact, I can't do much for you. I can't guarantee that you won't be in danger in the future, and I won't give you orders. But I can assure you that as long as you follow me and Little Treasure for one day, I will treat you sincerely and not let you regret your decision. The four of them clenched their right fists and placed them on their chests as they spoke in unison. The heavens bear witness, we are the Nether Flame Army for a day, and we will be the Nether Flame Souls for all eternity. We will never leave each other in life or death. The people outside the house seemed to have heard their voices. Suddenly, hundreds of people knelt on the ground and shouted in unison. The heavens bear witness, we are the Nether Flame Army for a day, and we will be the Nether Flame Souls for all eternity. We will never leave each other in life or death. Mu Yan took a deep breath. Similarly, she clenched her right fist and pressed it against her chest. She said softly, "All right, then our Nether Flame Army will never leave, never abandon." When Yen Haotian's group of four and the Nether Flame Army outside had all stood up, Mayan continued. What I used to purify your spiritual roots just now was my newly learned musician skill, Rebirth. I'm not familiar with this skill yet, so I can only help the four of you improve for now. In the near future, there shouldn't be many people who can be reborn. I don't care what assessment criteria you use, just select a portion of the cultivators under you and wait for my news in the Tianguang ruins. However, there's no need to rush those who haven't had their turn yet. As long as they are core members of the Nether Flame Army, I guarantee that there will be a chance for them to be reborn. After the Nether Flame Army heard Ru Yen and the rest's narration, they were ecstatic. Especially Guan Hu, Shui Yen, and the other captains, all of them even rubbed their palms together with high fighting spirit, and they vowed to seize the first batch of positions into their hands. On the shore of Jingpa Lake, the moonlight sprinkled down in fragments. It was extremely beautiful. Compared to half a year ago, the entire Hellflame Valley was completely different. The valley, which was originally wide open, was now covered with layers of camouflage and defense barriers. Ordinary people wouldn't even be able to touch the entrance of this valley. The valley was filled with all kinds of rare spirit herbs, and there were many spirit beasts of the 5th rank and above on the mountain. Furthermore, that was before Mu Yen entered the Woodfern's secret realm. With the treasures she'd brought back from the Woodfern's secret realm, Hellflame Valley would be able to rise to new heights. For example, the turf under his feet could all be replaced by the green mist grass, which spirit beasts loved the most. As Mu Yen was thinking, she suddenly felt her body being pulled into a familiar embrace. The man's low and hoarse voice enters her ears. "Yen, I want to go back to the Xiuxin continent." Mu Yen turns around to look at the man's increasingly handsome face under the moonlight. Her heart is reluctant, but she still smiles and says, "All right, be careful in everything. Don't worry about me, I'll take care of myself." Di Mingju looks at the girl's light and breezy smile, listening to her sweet voice, but he can't help but grind his teeth. This little heartless brat. He really didn't feel the slightest bit of reluctance. Feeling the man's low pressure, Mu Yen is about to open her mouth to ask if things are a little tricky. However, her red lips were suddenly sealed. Moreover, he was bitten heavily again. "Woo!" Mayan lets out a soft cry, and angrily says, "Di Mingju, are you a dog?" This is the second time he's bitten her since they've reunited. Baidu search the UC Book League website and let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all of which are updated in seconds. Chapter 23:20. Di Mingju leans down and whispers in her ear, Benjun isn't here, you're not allowed to go out and attract bees and butterflies. Mayan angrily says, when did I go out to attract bees? Before she could finish speaking, she was swallowed by the man again. Mayan is gasping for breath, her whole body is almost paralyzed in Di Mingju's arms. For a moment, she no longer has her imposing manner. This bastard, he was actually using the charm trick. Di Mingju continues in a hoarse voice, especially that Luo Yunxiao, Yin, you're not allowed to be alone with him. What? Why did the conversation suddenly jump to youngest martial uncle? What does it have to do with youngest martial uncle? How long had it been since he last saw little martial uncle? Mayan casts him a sidelong glance, her finger poking at his chest. Di Mingju, you're too narrow-minded. Youngest martial uncle is youngest martial uncle. To us, the Xiaoyao 7 disciples, he is our closest relative. He is more like our master than our master. You're even jealous of young martial uncle? Di Mingju's eyes darken. He opens his mouth wanting to say something, but in the end he swallows back the words at the tip of his tongue. Of course, he won't tell Mayan that no matter how much that man concedes, no matter how much he bears it, he can't hide the affection in his eyes when he looks at Mayan. He also won't tell Mu Yen that Luo Yunxiao has also come to that nameless island just now. Every time Mu Yen was in danger, this man would appear. It goes without saying what he was doing. Mu Yen sees that Di Mingju has a calm face and doesn't speak. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind, and he recalled the scene of Qi Huang stomping his feet every time he mentioned little martial uncle. She blurts out, Di Mingju, don't tell me that you're jealous that youngest martial uncle is more handsome than you? As soon as the words left her mouth, she knew it was going to be bad. Sure enough, the man's face, which was originally dark and gloomy, suddenly looked as if he was about to sink into the water. Luo Yunxiao looks more handsome than me. Di Mingju's voice is very tranquil, the corners of his mouth even curling up into a faint smile. Mu Yen, on the other hand, is so frightened that she frantically shakes her head. No, no. In my heart, only you, Yen Yu, are the most handsome. The rest of the women, whether they are fat or skinny, are all fleeting clouds. It was just a slip of the tongue. Yes, a slip of the tongue. Unfortunately, Di Mingju won't be so easily coaxed this time. Since you know you're wrong, you should accept the punishment. After saying that, he doesn't wait for Mu Yen to resist and directly presses her against the rockery by the lake, covering up her punishment. Until the jade slip in his hand lit up with an urging light again. Only then does Di Mingju release her. This time, the voice that speaks again carries a trace of hoarseness and uneasiness. Yen, you will stay by my side forever, and be my wife, right? Mayan hugs him, her tone carrying a trace of helplessness and pampering. I seem to have answered this question many times. But since you want to hear it, I can repeat it for you 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Di Mingju, I, Jun Mayan, like you. In this life, as long as you don't betray me, I will only love you in this lifetime. In this world, Xiaobao and you are my most important and true love. Di Mingju reaches out and tightly embraces her, whispering, Benjun will be back soon. Mu Yen nods lightly. She then heard the man say, wait for Benjun's return. If I discover that you violated our agreement and continue to attract bees and butterflies, then we'll settle all the past and future debts together. Mu Yen, wait a minute, who's attracting bees and butterflies? Who has any shitty agreement with you? Di Mingju, don't talk to yourself like this, acting on your own initiative. Chapter 23-21. Mu Yen fiercely grinds her molars as she watches the man's figure disappear. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and his eyes revealed a gentle smile and a sense of longing. Stupid Di Mingju, who said I didn't miss you? From the moment you disappeared, I couldn't help but miss you. However, to have someone in his heart that he could always worry about and think about every day, this kind of sour and sweet feeling didn't seem too bad. The divine speedboat flew towards the green cloud world's Merak mountain range as fast as lightning. Luo Yu and Leng Yuma were reminiscing about how poor they were back then, and the hardships they went through to the starry school from their clan. Now that they had emerged from the Woodfern's secret realm, they had struck gold. Not to mention a small flying artifact, even buying the entire Azure Cloud world wouldn't be a problem. In the space, Mu Yen and Qi Huang are discussing the method to advance their Shen musician skills. 1 round of mysterious energy, 1 round of spiritual energy, and 1 round of immortal energy can fuse into 1 round of divine energy. Mayan frowns. Just how much is this round? Qi Huang said lazily, stupid. As the name suggests, it's naturally the amount of energy that the profound force, spiritual energy and immortal energy in your body can contain after 12 circulations. But the problem is that I don't have celestial power. Her eyes lit up. Can I borrow someone else's celestial power? Qi Huang spits. Your Tian Mo Qin is a broken magic weapon of those cats and dogs. Once the Tian Mo Qin recognizes a master, it can only accept your command. Even if it's Xiao Bao, at most, he would only be able to play it a bit. Wanting to pour immortal power into the Tian Mo Qin, that's simply a dream. Mu Yen sighed. She had already guessed that this path would not work. It was actually very simple to produce immortal energy. That was to reach the peak of tribulation passing, then ascend and achieve an immortal physique. The problem was, she hadn't even broken through to the original infant stage. Wanting to reach the peak of the tribulation passing stage in a short period of time was simply wishful thinking. Gigi goo. Mama. Little Inghor rolled over to her side and rubbed itself against her chest, giggling. Why is this stupid chicken laughing like a fool every day? He was so silly, yet he still called her mommy. It was so embarrassing. Fortunately, apart from herself, Di Mingju seems to be the only one who understands the little chick's language. Otherwise, she would have to find a hole to hide in. Lowering his head, he was met with the little chick's watery eyes that were filled with adoration. In the end, he swallowed his words of reprimand. Forget it, I'll just take it as raising another brat. In any case, no matter how insolent he was, he couldn't be more insolent than Qi Xiaohuang. Jun Mayan, don't think that this Zun doesn't know what you're thinking. 7 Brilliance jumped up from the ground, bristling with anger. You dare to compare this sovereign with this stupid chicken? Do you believe that this sovereign will immediately stew this chicken? You throw this stupid chicken out of the space right now. Do you hear me? Woo, the little chick was no longer as ignorant as it was when it was just born. It understood Qi Huang's words. 2 bubbles of tears immediately swirl in her eyes, and she looks tearfully at Mayan. Gg. Mummy, don't throw Huang away. Huang will be good. Whoa. Mayan has a headache as she picks it up. She has no choice but to softly pacify it. Don't cry, your big brother Qi Xiaohuang has a mania. It flares up every 2 or 3 days. Let's not lower ourselves to his level. Jun Mayan, who are you saying has a mania? 7 Brilliance angrily flings his sleeves at her. Baidu Search UC Book League website, let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all updates in seconds. Chapter 23-22. Irascible 7 Brilliant, 2, asking for votes. Mu Yen knows that this is an attack, and promptly waves the Tian Mo Qin to resist. When they quarreled, they would also attack each other like this. However, this attack would usually miss. But today, in her haste, Mayan's hand slipped, and her attack suddenly deviated from the established route. In the end, the red robe on Qi Huang's body was torn apart, revealing his fair and slender body. The youth's appearance was extremely beautiful, elegant, and seductive. Her jet-black hair was loosely draped over her shoulders and fluttered in the wind, making her look even more sexy and charming. However, all of this was destroyed by one thing. That was the only thing that was still on Qi Huang's body, the bright red underwear. Qi Xiaohuang was completely dumbfounded. His entire body stiffened as he stood in place. Mu Yan's eyes wander around to make sure that he isn't injured, then she bursts out in laughter. She couldn't suppress her laughter at all. She laughed so hard that tears came out of her eyes. The little chick opened its big round eyes and looked at Mu Yanxiao with a confused expression. Seeing that its mother was happy, it also began to giggle. The man and the chicken couldn't stop at all. Until Chi Huang lets out a roar that can shatter the entire Tian Mo Chin space. June. Moo. Face. 15 minutes later. Mu Yen and Little Chick stood side by side in front of the enraged Lord Artifact Spirit and sincerely apologized. Alright, I was wrong. I shouldn't laugh at you. Isn't it just a pair of red panties? Cough. Red underwear? I think it's pretty bright and it suits you. Chi Huang gnashes his teeth and glares at her. June Mayan, if you dare to laugh again, this sage will not let you off. Mu Yen quickly retracted her smile. I'm not smiling. Our 7 little Huang is the most handsome and charming. No matter what you wear, you can't hide your charm. Little Inghua, go. Mummy is right. Raise a chicken wing in support. Chi Huang's ears turned red. He tried his best to suppress it, but he still couldn't suppress the smile on his face. He snorted. Don't think that I will let you off just because you said that. Chi Huang couldn't help but glance at the little chick as he spoke. He narrowed his eyes. Was that really a coincidence? But very quickly, he tossed this fleeting thought to the back of his mind and looked at Mayan. You want to possess immortal energy? Mu Yen quickly nodded. Is there a way? If possible, she naturally hoped to achieve an immortal physique and produce immortal power as soon as possible. Otherwise, wouldn't her Shin musician skills be stuck at 1 star forever, unable to be upgraded? Putting everything else aside, if she couldn't level up her rebirth skill, she could only purify the spiritual roots of 4 people at a time. After a round of purification, he had to rest for a few days. If that's the case, how long will it take for all the Nether Flame army to be reborn? Chi Huang snorted. Do you know what Moon spiritual root is? Why did the topic jump to the Moon spiritual root? In this world, there is nothing better than the Moon spirit root in being able to contain all kinds of energy and transform it into your own. It was just that none of the people who possessed the Moon spirit root in the past were able to truly activate the potential of the Moon spirit root. Therefore no one knows. Chi Huang paused, then looked straight into Mu Yan's eyes. He slowly said, in this world, only the possessor of the Moon spirit root can gather internal force, spiritual energy, immortal energy, devil energy, and even divine power into one body, without repelling each other and exploding. If you want to possess immortal energy before achieving an immortal physique, there is only one way. Just like when you were in the Yenwu continent, you didn't have a spiritual body, but you had a spiritual root. After running around for a day, I continued to update 5 chapters. Isn't it worth praising? Tickets, Z is recruiting you. Chapter 23. Returning home. Master, we're back. 1. Mu Yan's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly sat up straight and an idea flashed through her mind. Breaking through to the nascent soul level, she said slowly. When I break through to the nascent soul level, the Moon spirit root will give birth to the 4th element. That's the best time for me to have celestial power and produce immortal bones. Chi Huang pouted. You're not too stupid after all. Mu Yen smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Then she remembered with lingering fear. Luckily, she didn't break through hastily in the underground palace in the Broken Soul Forest. Otherwise, she wouldn't have enough spiritual power, her blood chi would collapse, and she would be surrounded by powerful enemies. Even if she broke through, she wouldn't be able to produce immortal bones. Now it seemed that the underground palace, or rather, the little chick, had helped her by stopping her from breaking through. Mu Yen picked up the little chick and kissed its soft head. Little Huang, I think you should change your name to Lucky Chicken. Ever since she had picked up this son of a chicken, she had been blessed with good luck. The little chick almost fainted from happiness. Mama kissed him. But Huang was the happiest chick in the world. Chi Huang gritted his teeth. Stupid chicken. I'll make soup out of you sooner or later. He would never admit that his heart ached. June Mu Yen, this stupid woman, had never kissed him before. She actually kissed a stupid chicken. Just then, Luo Yu and Lung Yuma's shouts came from outside. 6th senior sister, the Xiaoyao sect is here. Mu Yen quickly flashed out of the space. Looking from above, a familiar valley came into view. The Xiaoyao sect. After a year, the 7 disciples of the Xiaoyao sect had finally all returned. Compared to the shabby Xiaoyao sect a year ago, the whole unitary sect had worked hard, tidying up. The sect base in front of them could be described as brand new. Compared to the Starry School, the Dragon Ascension School, or any other place they had stayed in recently, this place was like a beggar's nest. But looking at the familiar buildings and scenery, the 3 felt like they had finally returned home. Luo Yu said worriedly, "I wonder how Master has been this year. Without us by his side, did he eat well? Did he miss us often?" As soon as he finished speaking, he heard Shi Qing's energetic voice coming from inside. No, this doesn't count. My hand slipped just now and I made a mistake. I want to start over." What came next was a childish voice that was cold and adorable, but with a hint of helplessness. "Grandmaster, you have no regrets when you make a move?" Shi Qing grinned and said, "Xiao Bao. Grandmaster is telling you, it's true that there's no regret in making a move, but as a person, we must know how to be flexible. You see, Grandmaster is getting on in years. It's normal for his hands to tremble. Good little baby, let me go down again. This time, I want to go down here." Xiaobao's voice was flat. "Grandmaster, are you sure?" In the next moment, Shi Qing screamed like a pig being slaughtered. "Oh no, I made a mistake again. Let's do it again." Mu Yan and the other 2, who were listening to their conversation, couldn't help but laugh out loud. Mu Yan hasn't seen Xiaobao for so long. Now that she hears her son's crisp and clear childish voice, the longing in her heart is practically overflowing. Leng Yuma already couldn't help but shout, "Master, don't lead our precious nephew astray." Luo Yu also shouted, "Master, little baby, we're back." Chapter 23-24. Returning home in glory. "Master, we're back, too." Shi Qing and Xiaobao look up when they hear their voices. When Xiaobao's eyes meet Mu Yan's, his big ice blue eyes are filled with joy. He drops the chess piece in his hand on the chessboard, no longer caring about winning or losing. His small body is like an arrow released from a bow. He bursts into Mu Yan's arms, tightly hanging onto her neck and refusing to let go. "Nyangchen, Nyangchen." His soft voice carries a trace of grievance, full of longing, echoing in Mu Yan's ears over and over again. "Nyangchen, Xiaobao missed you." Mu Yan tightly hugs his small body in her arms. Her voice is a little hoarse. "Nyangchen also missed you." After the mother and daughter pair are warm enough, Xiaobao remembers that there are a lot of people watching. He has always boasted that he has grown up, that he is a man, but he just hugged Mu Yan and acted like a spoiled child, his eyes red. At this time, when he meets the smiling eyes of Leng Yuma and the others, his little face immediately turns red, but he still pretends to be calm. This tsundere little appearance makes everyone laugh. Even Mu Yan is somewhat overjoyed. Xiao Bao and Di Mingju have been together for a long time. She doesn't know if they have a father-son appearance. His gestures are becoming more and more similar to Di Mingju. His appearance is very similar to Mu Yan's, with delicate features and delicate features, not like that of an ordinary child. This cold little appearance is not as frightening as Di Mingju's. On the contrary, it's extremely cute. Leng Yuma can't help it. She reaches out and scoops Xiao Bao up, rubbing him hard. "Oh, Uncle's little darling, I haven't seen you for a month. Uncle missed you so much. Quick, let Uncle kiss you." Xiao Bao struggles to break free and crashes into Mu Yan's arms. His little face is flushed, and he repeats in all seriousness, "Fourth Uncle, men and women should not touch each other." Ha! Everyone can't help but laugh in unison. After laughing, Mu Yan and the other 2 pay their respects to Shi Qing. Luo Yu hugs Shi Qing and doesn't let go. "Master, Xiao Qi missed you so much." He was raised by Shi Qing since he was a child. For so many years, this is the first time he has left Shi Qing's side for so long. Shi Qing looked at Luo Yu, his murky eyes sparkling. "In the blink of an eye, you've grown so much. You're no longer that." He stopped mid-sentence and smiled as if trying to hide something. Good. It's good that you're back." Shi Qing's gaze swept across Mu Yan and Leng Yuma, and the gratification in his eyes became even stronger. Peak of the Gold Core Realm. When you left, you were only at the Anidia stage, but now you are already at the peak of the Gold Core Realm. Even Xiaoqi, that mischievous fellow, has reached the 9th stage of the Gold Core Realm. How am I lazy? Luo Yu was unconvinced. I won't work too hard these days. As he spoke, he thought of something and became excited again. All right, where are eldest senior brother and the others? I'll show them how much I've improved. Haha, I'm not the weakest member of the carefree sect anymore. Shi Qing stroked his beard and looked at the peak of the back mountain. He slowly said, they entered the sword furnace to cultivate half a month ago. Sword furnace? Which sword furnace? The three of them were confused. Suddenly Leng Yuma exclaimed, don't tell me it's junior uncle's sword furnace. Luo Yu's eyes widened. Master? Are you kidding? How could you let eldest senior brother and the others enter the sword furnace? Didn't junior uncle say that the sword furnace is extremely dangerous? Even a nascent soul realm cultivator would die in there? Even Mu Yan's expression changed. Chapter 23-25. Eldest senior brother, are you all safe and sound? If even junior uncle said that the sword furnace was dangerous, then it must be a very dangerous place. Eldest senior brother and the rest all went in? Are they all safe and sound? Shi Qing sighed softly, not speaking for a long time. Where is the sword furnace? Is it in the back mountain? Luo Yu turned and ran out. No, I have to save eldest senior brother and the rest. Little seven, don't mess around. Shi Qing shouted. Luo Yu's eyes reddened. Master, I'm not messing around, but eldest senior brother and the rest, Mayan suddenly said. Is it because we didn't listen and insisted on going to the Woodfern's secret realm that eldest senior brother and the rest chose to enter the sword furnace? Luo Yu and Leng Yuma looked over. Mayan's voice is slightly hoarse as she says, from the first time we entered the Ziyunjie, Big Brother always told us to keep a low profile. At that time, I guess that one or even several of us might have enemies in the Ziyunjie. And we were too weak. If those enemies came looking for us, we wouldn't even have the ability to protect ourselves. Eldest senior brother was most afraid that we would get hurt. She paused, a trace of self-blame and regret in her eyes, but I never really took eldest senior brother's advice to heart. Mayan had always been free. She couldn't be bound by anything, and she couldn't suppress her nature to live. The rest of the carefree sect was the same. That was why they were in the limelight time and time again, falling into danger time and time again. They lived freely and freely, not keeping a low profile at all. The Carefree Seven's name had long spread throughout the green, clear sky, and azure blue realms. Now, after the Deer Cry Banquet and the Woodfern's secret realm, even the people of the Purple Cloud world might know their names. That way, there would be a day when their enemies would come looking for them. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, and fifth senior brother knew that they couldn't stop them, so they desperately wanted to become stronger. They didn't want to drag each other down, and they wanted to protect the people they cared about. Hearing Mayan's words, Leng Yuma bit her lower lip. She, who had always been fearless and thought she was number one in the world, was now filled with deep regret. Luo Yu's tears rolled down. It is all because we were disobedient that the senior brothers risked their lives to enter the sword furnace. Shi Qing patted their shoulders and said softly, all right, don't worry. They're fine now. Not a single soul lamp has been extinguished. As he spoke, he walked to the side and opened a cabinet for the other three to see. Sure enough, there were 3 soul lamps inside, each one pulsing brightly. Before Yun Ruhan and the others entered the sword furnace, they were afraid that if they died in an accident, Shi Qing would know. That was why he used their hair and blood as a guide to refine the soul lamp that represented their life force. Seeing that the 4 soul lamps are bright and vibrant, Mu Yan and the other 2 let out a long sigh of relief. Shi Qing restrained the worry in his eyes and said with a smile, as cultivators, if we want to become stronger and climb higher, we have to fight against fate. If you just want to live in a corner, you can naturally be overcautious and avoid risks with a clear conscience. But if you want to become stronger, to stand at the peak, to ascend, and to cultivate the Tao, then the path you have to walk will definitely be filled with danger. Once fear arises in one's heart, the final outcome would be eternal damnation. It is precisely because Ruhan and the others know this that they chose to enter the sword furnace without hesitation. Chapter 23-26. Eldest senior brother, are you all safe and sound, too? Asking for tickets, he paused for a moment before continuing. The three of you snuck into the Woodfern's secret realm as golden core cultivators. Was there no danger at all? Did you even flinch at all? His words caused the worries in the hearts of the three of them to dissipate by half. Luo Yu looked at Shi suspiciously. Master, you've changed. You're actually able to speak so much logic. That's right. Lun Yuma added, if it wasn't for the smell of alcohol on Master and the familiar way he acted shamelessly with Xiaobao, I would have suspected that he was possessed. Hey, you two heartless brats. How can you talk about Master like that? I'll teach you a lesson. Shi picked up a broken shoe and chased after Luo Yu and Lin Yuma. The gloomy atmosphere in the room had been swept away, replaced by the sound of laughter. Mu Yan's gaze stopped on the three soul lamps and she frowned slightly. Then she lowered her head and whispered in Xiaobao's ear. Xiaobao looked up in surprise, his eyes wide. Mother, how did you know? Mu Yan smiled and patted his head, not saying anything. However, when the smile reached the bottom of his eyes, it turned into a trace of confusion and worry. Although the soul lamps were fine, Mu Yan and the other two were still worried and waited on the back mountain. The sword furnace stood tall on the back mountain. From the outside, it looked like an unremarkable iron tower. There were many spots of rust on the outside of the tower. But when Luo Yu and the others tried to approach the sword furnace, they were immediately repelled by an invisible force. Without a special key, even an old ghost at the tribulation stage couldn't enter the sword furnace at will. What is the sword furnace? Mu Yan couldn't help but ask. Luo Yu shook her head. I'm not too sure either. I only know that it belongs to Junior Martial Uncle, and he left it for Master to suppress. I don't know what it is. I've heard third senior brother mention it before. Lung Yuma continued, the sword furnace used to be a holy land for sword cultivators. There are tens of thousands of spirits and fiends inside. They will be strengthened or weakened according to the cultivation and talent of the person who enters the sword furnace. The more outstanding the spirit root, the more torture they will suffer in the sword furnace. Of course, if they succeed in the challenge, their strength will increase by leaps and bounds. But if the challenge fails, then the cultivator's soul will be trapped in the sword furnace to strengthen the Een soul and Nether fiend, forever unable to reincarnate. As the number of Een souls and Nether fiends in the sword furnace increases, the training in the sword furnace becomes more and more difficult. In the past 100 years, only Junior Master has come out of the sword furnace alive. Lun Yuma's words made Mu Yan and Luo Yu's hearts lift up again. Would everyone really be able to come out safely? Mu Yan hugs Xiaobao tightly in her arms. Xiaobao raises his head and gently caresses the worry between Mu Yan's brows. Mother, don't worry. Sherbua and the others are so powerful. They will definitely be fine. Chirp, chirp, chirp. The little chick also popped its head out, chirping nonstop to join in the fun. Mommy, don't worry. You're amazing. It'll be fine. After chirping, it even used its little head to rub against Xiaobao. Chirp, chirp. Gidge isn't worried at all. Xiaobao's gaze was gentle as he petted the little chick, letting it lie on his lap to play. The little chick was so happy that it went crazy. It rolled around and kept chirping, I like Gidge, Gidge is the best. Huang Huang wants to catch some bugs for Gidge to eat. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. It seems that only she and Di Mingju can understand the little chick's words. So dangerous, I finally made it before midnight. I don't need to ask for leave, there will be more later. Back to the normal midnight update. Chapter 23-27. Luckily, Xiaobao didn't understand. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how he would react if a chick called him my brother and asked him to catch worms for him. Right at this moment, the entire mountain suddenly shook violently. A black hole that looked like a whirlpool appeared on the sword furnace. All the demonic plants and beasts on the Tianxian mountain started to run away, trying to get away from the sword furnace. Shi Qing, who was drinking at the foot of the mountain, threw away his wine pot and jumped to the front of the sword furnace. His eyes were full of expectation and worry. He stared at the black hole. The exit is here. Someone passed the trial and will come out soon. When Mu Yen and the other two heard this, their faces revealed joy. It was great that a senior brother could come out safely. However, the next moment, their expressions changed. An enormous figure slowly squeezed out of the black whirlpool of the sword furnace. It looked like a beast, but it was covered by a cloud of black smoke. Wherever the black smoke went, the plants withered. The bone-chilling coldness and terrifying pressure filled every corner of the Xiaoyao School's back mountain. What is this? Why didn't senior brother come out? It's a lunar beast. Shi Qing gasped. It's a demonic beast formed by ghosts and spirits. It has the lowest level of intelligence. Be careful. A lunar beast is as powerful as a high-level nascent soul cultivator. The lunar beast's entire body emerged from the whirlpool. As it came out, the temperature became lower and lower. It wasn't a normal low temperature. It was a bone-chilling coldness that could freeze people's souls and make them feel evil. The birds and beasts on the Tianxian mountain had already fled. They were intimidated by the pressure and had no way to escape. They were so frightened that they fainted. It was obvious how terrifying the lunar beast was. Mu Yen turned her wrist and held the 7th supreme sword in her hand. Luo Yu and Leng Yuema also took out their weapons. However, at this moment, an inconspicuous white light spot appeared on the belly of the lunar beast. The lunar beast let out a painful scream. Then, Mu Yen and the others looked at it in surprise. The speck of light suddenly exploded like a firework, spreading out from the lunar beast's body. The powerful sword qi that seemed to be able to devour mountains and seas suddenly erupted as the speck of light spread. Such powerful sword qi! Luo Yu jumped 3 feet high in excitement. It's eldest senior brother's sword qi. Eldest senior brother. Eldest senior brother. We're here. Mayan's eyes shine, and her face can't help but reveal a smile of admiration. Eldest senior brother had become stronger. No, it should be said that he had become much stronger. The sword qi that was slowly overflowing from the lunar beast seemed to be able to swallow mountains and rivers, and overturn heaven and earth. It should be said that eldest senior brother's sword intent and cultivation level were not the only powerful things. There was also his mountain sea domain. The sword gleam grew brighter and brighter, and also grew larger and larger. Like countless threads, the Yin soul's body was cut into pieces. The lunar beast let out a final roar of despair as its body was torn into pieces. The light slowly dissipated, and Yun Ruhan's thin figure slowly appeared. Eldest senior brother. The 3 shouted in unison and went to greet him. Luo Yu saw the wounds on Yun Ruhan's body that had not completely healed, and her eyes turned red. Eldest senior brother, how could you go to the sword furnace without telling us? The sword furnace is so dangerous. What if you were injured? Chapter 23-28. Remember in 1 second, 800 $say, net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Yun Ruhan's gaze swept over the 3 of them, and she snorted coldly. Isn't it dangerous for you to sneak into the Woodfern's secret realm? Did he inform me? The 3 of them immediately became listless. They shrunk their heads and obediently accepted the scolding. But before the reprimand was over, a bolt of lightning suddenly fell from the sky, right beside Yun Ruhan. Shi Qing looked up at the sky and exclaimed in surprise, "Lightning tribulation. Good boy, Ruhan, you're about to ascend to the nascent soul stage." A thick layer of purple clouds had appeared in the sky. That was clearly the tribulation cloud that would only appear when a cultivator made a great breakthrough. Even if they were both nascent soul cultivators, there was a huge difference in strength between those who had experienced lightning tribulations and those who hadn't. Eldest senior brother, quickly sit down cross-legged and prepare to form your nascent soul. We will protect you. Yun Ruhan immediately sat down cross-legged. Bolts of lightning struck down from the sky, landing on Yun Ruhan's body, causing him to reveal a pained expression. However, every bolt of lightning also plated Yun Ruhan's body with a layer of faint purple color, slowly transforming his flesh and dantian. Eldest senior brother had not only come out of the sword furnace alive, he had broken through to nascent soul in one go. This news made Mu Yen and the other two extremely happy. However, everything that happened today was far from over. 15 minutes after Yun Ruhan began her tribulation, the ground suddenly shook again. The black vortex appeared again. A roar that sounded like a lion's roar came from inside. Second senior brother, it's second senior brother's voice. The first thing that came out wasn't Qinjiao, but a lunar beast. However, just like Yun Ruhan, the lunar beast was blasted out of the whirlpool before it could escape. Before it could even land on the ground, it was torn apart in midair. Immediately after, Qinjiao's tall and sturdy figure leaped out of the whirlpool and roared towards the sky, shaking the mountains and rivers. Second senior brother, it's great that you're all right. Qinjiao's face was filled with malevolence and malevolence. He looked even more like a wild beast than the lunar beast. But when he heard their voices, the fierceness in his eyes slowly faded, and he became as silly as usual. His gaze swept over Mu Yen and the other two, and he suddenly said word by word, "Little junior sister, little 4, little 7, I have become stronger, I can protect you. In the future, if you go somewhere, can you call me along? I can help you." Hearing this, Mu Yen stares blankly at first, then she feels an indescribable warmth and gratitude in her heart. She said softly, "All right, from now on we, the Xiaoyao 7, are of one heart and one body." Second Shixiang, you have to promise us that the next time you enter a dangerous place like the sword furnace, you have to bring us along. Qinjiao's face blossomed into a silly and happy smile as she nodded heavily. Rumble. A bolt of lightning fell. Luo Yu's eyes widened as she exclaimed, "Second senior brother, you're also about to advance to the nascent soul realm." Yes, this bolt of lightning wasn't aimed at Yun Ruhan, but at Qinjiao. Qinjiao's body was brimming with spiritual energy, as if it was about to overflow. If one used their divine sense to investigate, they would discover that the shadow of a small person was faintly discernible in his dantian. It was obvious that he was also about to condense his nascent soul. With this advancement, Qinjiao and Yun Ruhan directly went from the blazing sun in the sky to the setting sun. The two of them almost finished advancing to the nascent soul realm one after the other. Luo Yu was both happy and worried. "I thought that after coming out of the Woodfern's secret realm, my cultivation wouldn't be the lowest in the sect anymore." And the result? Eldest senior brother and second senior brother actually advanced to the nascent soul realm, once again leaving him, a level 9 golden core cultivator, far behind. Chapter 23-29. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say, net would third brother and fifth brother also reach Yuaning? Could it be that third senior brother and fifth senior brother would also directly reach the nascent soul realm? A whirlpool appeared on the iron furnace again. A whirlpool appeared on the iron furnace again. Who will come out this time? Just as they were thinking, they saw Chu Moli slowly float out in a wheelchair. He leisurely landed on the ground. Everyone looked left, right, up, down. They wanted to find a thundercloud or a lunar beast. However, there was nothing. Nothing at all. The surroundings of the sword furnace were eerily quiet. Chu Moli looked at everyone present with a faint smile on his face. He said in a gentle voice, "What? Am I not welcome?" Luo Yu couldn't help but say, "Third brother, why did you come out like this?" No lunar beast came out, no lightning tribulation, no shaking of the ground. Chu Moli's posture was more like he casually took a stroll in the sword furnace, and then casually walked out. Especially with the eldest brother and second brother as a foil, Chu Moli's posture when he walked out of the sword furnace was even more strange. Chu Moli's eyelashes drooped slightly, and he said weakly, "Maybe it's because I'm too weak, and those lunar beasts don't like me." The 5 people rolled their eyes at him. Among the 7 of them, The most abnormal and mysterious one was the third brother. Saying that lunar beasts don't like him? Lung Yuma muttered, I think those lunar beasts were tortured to death inside, and couldn't chase after him. Chu Moli's cultivation had also advanced, but it wasn't as abnormal as Yun Ruhan and Qinjiu, who directly reached Yuani. His current cultivation had already reached the peak of Jindan stage. Moreover, compared to the powerful sword intent displayed by the other people of the Xiaoyao school, and their domains were all above the second rank. Chu Moli's overall strength seemed to be quite weak. But Mu Yen inexplicably felt that Lin Yuma knew the truth. Chu Moli suddenly turned to look at Mu Yen. Junior sister, did you bring the thing you promised me? Mu Yen's mouth twitched. A guy who was keen on collecting the corpses of high-level cultivators, how could he be weak? Third brother, are you kidding me? However, even though she complained, she still obediently offered the bodies of Xue Zhong and the others. Chu Moli put the things away in satisfaction. Then, everyone's gaze focused on the sword furnace. It was almost midnight. Presently, only Ling Yuxing hadn't come out. Looks like little Five won't be able to come out today. It doesn't matter. As long as his soul lamp isn't extinguished, it proves that little Five is safe. He will definitely come out safely. Luo Yu also stared closely at the sword furnace. She looked even more worried than the others. Yun Ruhan rubbed his head. Xiaoqi, what's wrong? He was just about to say that Xiaowu was fine and that her soul lamp was still lit. Luo Yu rubbed her chin and puffed up her cheeks. I wonder what cultivation level 5th senior brother is at now. His words stunned everyone for a moment. Then, they couldn't help but burst into laughter. In that short month, the 7 disciples of the Carefree School had been tempered in the Sword Furnace and the Woodfern's secret realm. Originally, his average cultivation level was only at the 3rd level of the Golden Core realm, but now, it had been raised to the peak of the Golden Core realm. Luo Yu was now at the Golden Elixir stage 9 and thought that he was no longer the weakest among the 7. But in the end, he was still the one who held them back. Thus, apart from worrying about Ling Yuxing's safety, Luo Yu also placed her last hope on 5th senior brother's cultivation. As if to echo Luo Yu's heart. Chapter 23:30. The familiar trembling of the earth came again. A black whirlpool slowly appeared. In the blink of an eye, a lunar beast rushed out of the cave at lightning speed. This sound beast was much smaller than the previous 2. But the cold and rotten aura it emitted wasn't weak at all. Most importantly, it was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a small dot and was about to disappear into the horizon. Shi Qing's face changed. If we let this beast escape, it will definitely bring disaster to the world. Let's go after it. As soon as his voice fell, the surrounding air seemed to ripple and ripple for a moment. The next moment, they saw the ghost that had almost escaped without a trace stop in midair. From afar, a mournful and angry roar came. Mayan gathered her spirit in her eyes. She saw a young man appear in front of the sound beast. The needle and thread in his hand danced, tying the sound beast up in the blink of an eye. Suddenly tightening, the sound beast was torn to pieces by the demon binding silk. The next moment, the young man's figure flashed and appeared in front of them. Teleportation. Little Five, you can teleport. Lung Yuma said excitedly, your space domain has advanced. Ling Yuxing's face was a little pale, but his eyes were bright. Hearing the question, he smiled shyly. It can't really be considered teleportation. If the opponent's pressure is too strong, my teleportation will be easily interrupted. Even so, a golden core stage cultivator being able to grasp the ability of teleportation would definitely shock everyone's jaws off. Little Five came out safely. We, the Xiaoyao 7, have finally reunited. While he was excited, Ling Yuxing saw Luo Yu squatting in a corner and drawing circles. He couldn't help but be curious. Little 7, what are you doing? Luo Yu glared at him and murmured gloomily, Peak Jindan stage. Peak Jindan stage. Another Peak Jindan stage. Yes, Ling Yuxing also couldn't break through to nascent soul. However, his cultivation had also reached Peak Jindan stage. Ling Yuxing was baffled. You left me and followed little sister to the Woodfern's secret realm. I still haven't settled the score with you. You're still glaring at me. After all, the four of them had heard about the Woodfern's secret realm from Ning Su. In the end, because Ling Yuxing was more obedient after being stopped by the eldest senior brother, he didn't think that he could still sneak around and was abandoned by the three of them. Luo Yu became even more depressed. Everyone could not help but burst into laughter. Sect Leader Shi, what happened? Why did we feel that the entire Tianshan mountain range was shaking? Are you all right? At the foot of the mountain came Su Qing's anxious and flustered voice. In the past, Su Qing, an elder of the whole unitary sect, wanted to provoke and rob the Xiaoyao sect. In the end, he was beaten up by Mu Yen and the others. He was even painted with the painting of a beauty. From then on, he was extremely afraid of the Xiaoyao school. This year, when Mu Yen wasn't around, Su Qing led the disciples under him to serve Shi Qing cautiously and conscientiously. He only hoped that he wouldn't provoke this group of fiends again. Later on, the story of the unfettered seven devils spread throughout the entire cultivation world. Su Qing and the others didn't dare act rashly in the slightest, and they served Shi Qing every day even more diligently than they served their own father. Sensing the dangerous aura of the lunar beasts, he couldn't help but rush over to check on Elder Shi. Looking around, he saw Mu Yen and the others. Xiao, the unfettered seven devils. Heavens, the unfettered seven devils are back. Amidst the screams and laughter, everyone returned to the Xiaoyao school's encampment. Mu Yen, on the other hand, once again stealthily went to the peak of the back mountain. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 23:31. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. She looks around and suddenly says softly, youngest Marshall uncle, since you're here, why don't you want to meet us? The surroundings are quiet, there's no response at all. Mu Yen is not discouraged and continues, when I first saw the soul lamps of my senior brothers, I noticed that there were traces of burning on them. That means that the owner of the soul lamp had encountered a life-threatening danger and finally survived. Also, fourth sister said that the sword furnace is extremely dangerous. In the past 100 years, no cultivator has been able to come out alive. However, eldest brother came out at the same time, safe and sound. I hope that my senior brothers can be safe, but this survival rate and the time of success of the trial are too incredible and too coincidental. Mu Yen looks at the surrounding darkness of the night and murmurs in a low voice, youngest Marshall uncle, it was you who came back in the nick of time and saved my senior brothers, right? You were also the one who told Master to say those words, so that fourth senior sister, little seven, and I wouldn't feel sad and regret it. Youngest Marshall uncle, you've done so much for us, but you don't tell us anything. You're even getting further and further away from us, as if you're deliberately drawing a clear line between us. I don't understand, why is that? After saying this, Mu Yen waits for a long time. However, it's still so quiet, no human voice, no response. Even because of the appearance of the lunar beast, there's no sound of insects or birds. Mu Yen sighs softly and is about to turn around and leave. Suddenly, a figure rushes out of the darkness and pounces into her arms. Wow, Mei Yanyan, I don't want to listen to Master, I want to be with Mei Yanyan. Master is such an idiot, he only knows how to hide, endure. You don't know how much he's done for you. But he won't say anything, and won't let me say anything. Mei Yanyan, do you know how unlucky I am to have such a master? My heart is broken. Woo, Mei Yanyan, you must use your warm embrace to comfort my wounded heart. Mu Yen pulls off the thing stuck to her chest and exclaims, Chi's kiss? Chi Wen immediately pouted and said excitedly, it's me. What do you think? Are you happy? Are you surprised? Come, beauty, let us have a kiss of reunion, Mua. Mu Yen is just about to slap this lecherous spirit beast away. From the side, a slender hand stretched out, grabbed Chi Wen's neck, and threw her to the side. Under the moonlight, The man's tall and slender figure and his picturesque face were revealed. Mayan's eyes suddenly burst with a joyful light. "Young martial uncle, you really are here." Luo Yunxiao retracted her gaze and looked at Chiwen. His eyes were cold and gloomy, as if they were frozen ice that had been frozen for thousands of years. Chiwen shrunk her neck and said guiltily, "Master, don't be angry. I didn't do it on purpose. I just wanted to beautify myself too much, so I couldn't hold back and rushed out." Sob sob sob, Master's gaze is so scary. Me and yan 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 yan. Nien yan 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 yan. I rushed out because of you. Luo Yunxiao slightly narrowed her eyes. Chiwen immediately cried out in fright, "I was wrong, I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again, Master. Please spare my life." Suddenly, his voice paused, and he said hesitantly, could it be that Master is angry not because Chiwen rushed out and exposed your whereabouts, but because Chiwen vainly tried to occupy the embrace of beautify that even you can't enjoy?" Chapter 23:32. Bush. Luo Yunxiao swings his hand, and Chiwen immediately flies out like a meteor, disappearing without a trace. Mu Yan can't help but burst out laughing. She has never seen a spiritual beast that is more suicidal than Chiwen. Under the moonlight, the smiling girl is like the brightest and most beautiful fairy. Mixed with holiness and charm, it can even make people's souls be unconsciously seduced. Luo Yunxiao holds his breath, as if he can hear his own heartbeat beating like a drum. Moreover, the more he represses it, the more vigorous it becomes, almost making his heart start to sting with a desire. He suddenly lowers his eyes, his hands quietly clenching into fists. Mu Yan doesn't notice Luo Yunxiao's strangeness. After laughing, she restrained her expression and said, "Youngest martial uncle, do you hate us? Do you find us particularly annoying?" Luo Yunxiao subconsciously blurts out. As soon as the words come out, he realizes that his tone is too urgent, too nervous. He purses his thin lips, wanting to say something, but he only feels that no matter what he says, it will only make things worse. Mu Yan's face can't help but burst into a smile again. She suddenly raises her voice. "Did you all hear that? I told you that youngest martial uncle didn't bother us, but you still don't believe me." Luo Yunxiao's brows jump, and she sees heads poking out from behind a crooked tree in the distance. Yun Ruhen, Qin Jiu, Chu Moli, Lin Yuma, Ling Yusheng, Luo Yu, not a single one is missing. Everyone's expression is perturbed and nervous. They carefully look at Luo Yunxiao, then immediately lower their eyes to the ground. Luo Yunxiao frowns. "What are you standing there for?" Hearing this, the 6 people immediately come over and obediently call out, "Youngest martial uncle." Except for Chu Moli, who is sitting in a wheelchair, his expression as usual. His eyes sweep over Luo Yunxiao and Mu Yan, a smile on his lips. The others, including the usually calm eldest martial brother Yun Ruhen, are very nervous at this time. They are not little martial sisters, who can casually joke around with youngest martial uncle. In the past, the impoverished Xiao Yao school completely relied on youngest martial uncle to support it, coupled with Luo Yunxiao's unparalleled strength and his cool temperament. So much so that everyone's reverence and obedience towards little martial uncle was almost deeply ingrained in their bones. Luo Yunxiao said expressionlessly, "You advance too quickly, and your cultivation is unstable. If you want to control your strength, you need to calm down and temper yourself." The 7 of them immediately accepted his advice humbly. Luo Yunxiao was speechless for a moment. She slowly said, "I still have something to do." Before she could finish, she was interrupted by Chu Moli. "Little martial uncle, little junior sister has something to consult you about." Mayan blinks and looks at Chu Moli. What did she want to consult him about? Chu Moli revealed a meaningful expression towards her. Well, Mayan instantly understands. He wanted her to think of a way to keep little martial uncle. Meeting Luo Yunxiao's gaze, Mu Yan could only brace herself and say, "Junior Master, I've comprehended 3 sword techniques in the blood-slaughtering sword formation, but I can't master them thoroughly. I hope you won't be stingy with your advice." The others came back to their senses and immediately started talking at once. "Little martial uncle, you haven't returned to the sect for a long time. We've finally reunited, so don't leave." "Little martial uncle, Xiaowu's culinary skills have improved again. Are you really not going to stay and have a taste?" The clamor of voices rang in his ears. In the tranquil night, it seemed especially noisy. But it also brought him a warmth that he hadn't felt for a long time. Luo Yunxiao met pairs of clear and bright eyes. Chapter 23:33. The words of farewell are on the tip of his tongue for a long time, but he can't spit them out no matter how hard he tries. Mayan smiles freely. "I don't know what worries you have, young martial uncle, or if you're afraid of implicating us. But you also said that if you want to climb up as a cultivator, you have to fight against the heavens. Being overcautious and indecisive, picking the light and fearing the heavy, how can you become strong?" "Young martial uncle, have you forgotten the name of our sect? Xiaoyao. The so-called Xiaoyao is to have wine today, to be drunk today, to ask my heart, and not to be bound by the heavens." She looks straight into Luo Yunxiao's beautiful star-like eyes and enunciates each word. "What is your real identity, young martial uncle? Do you have any powerful enemies? What kind of past do you have? We don't care about these. All we know is that you're our junior uncle and a member of the Carefree sect." Mayan's words make the other 6 nod heavily. Yun Ruhan says hoarsely, "Just like young martial uncle, you don't know our true origins, but when we were in a desperate situation, you came to save us without hesitation. Isn't it because you regard us as your family?" There's no expression on Luo Yunxiao's face, but the hands in his sleeves are unconsciously clenching tighter and tighter. He knows that he should stay away from all of this a little bit further. Otherwise, it will only bring about an irrecoverable end for everyone. But his heart, his soul, seems to be trapped in a swamp, and he can no longer break free. Suddenly, a small hand grabs him and gently tugs. A crisp, childish voice rings out, "Martial uncle, let's go back together." It's Xiao Bao who pulls his hand. Mayan touches her good son's head and raises her lips with a smile. "Let's go, young martial uncle, let's go back to the Xiaoyao school together." The others don't know where their courage comes from, but they reach out to push and pull their young martial uncle, who is usually as unattainable as a god. They push and shout, "Master, master, young martial uncle is back. Our Xiaoyao school is finally reunited." And me. Qi Wen's anxious voice approached from afar. "I am the one who has done the most meritorious service. Mei Yanyan, you must not forget about me." The moonlight is like a chain, and the laughter gradually goes away. Under the silent night sky, a faintly discernible figure slowly formed. He wore a fiery red robe, had long black hair, and was so gorgeous that he had a tinge of a youthful aura. If Mu Yen was here, she would definitely recognize it immediately. This was 7 Brilliance. However, the smile on Qi Huang's face was so treacherous and cold. The aura he exuded didn't have a trace of warmth or humanity, only a sense of danger that made one's blood run cold. The captivating red lips curled up slightly. His voice, which was somewhere between a young man and a man, was low and deep. With a psychedelic aura, it reverberated in the night. Only when there is hope will there be more despair. The more you have, the more painful it will be when you lose it. After seeing the light, when you fall into hell, you will be stained even more thoroughly, won't you? Ha. The youth's laughter was so captivating that it drifted in the air. Even after the young man's figure disappeared like a phantom, the voice still lingered, lingering for eternity. In the Tian Emochin space, Qi Huang abruptly opens his eyes and looks around, his expression panicked and nervous. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Little Inghor rolled to his side and opened his big eyes to see. Chapter 23:34. Brother Red Underpants is acting weird? Why did he suddenly disappear? And then he reappeared? Is Brother Red Underpants playing hide and seek with him? He likes it. Chi Huang's face darkened as he kicked Little Chick away and quickly walked into the book pagoda. Little Chick felt dizzy from the kick, tears of grievance welling up in its eyes. Huang, look, this is the crown I just bought, isn't it beautiful? Bun, and I also brought you a shiny hair clip, okay? Do you like it? The fat rabbit and Little Phoenix ran out from Tianguang ruins and excitedly presented their treasures to Little Chick. For some reason, Chi Huang and Bai Xie could enter Tianguang ruins through the drifting soul technique. The only exception was the Little Chick. It didn't seem to have any divine sense or spiritual energy. It looked just like an ordinary little chick. So it couldn't enter Tianguang ruins at all. Little Phoenix felt that it was too pitiful for Huang to not be able to go to Tianguang ruins to play, so it often got a lot of good things from there for him. Little Chick, who was crying with tears in its eyes, immediately greeted Little Phoenix happily when it heard its voice, throwing all its grievances to the back of its mind. That night, the entire Xiaoyao sect was very noisy. Not to mention Shi Qing, who was a good drinker. Even the disciples of the Xiaoyao sect and the whole unitary sect were all drunk, and almost all of them were lying on the ground. The whole unitary sect disciples, especially Su Qing, who used to clamor at the Xiaoyao sect, were trembling with fear at first, afraid of Mu Yen and the others. Later, when they got drunk, they shouted excitedly, "I can actually drink at the same table with young Master Yunxiao and the 7 devils of the Xiaoyao sect. I can brag about it for the rest of my life. Ha! Yes. I can brag about it for my grandchildren. Ha! Our whole unitary sect will also be a famous sect in the future." In the end, except for Mu Yen and Luo Yunxiao, everyone else was drunk. Before Su Qing fell, he kowtowed to Mu Yen, female. Female devil no. Female goddess. Gajin. Bedman. I, Su Qing, can't get drunk even after 1,000 cups, but I can't drink better than you. Hiccup, you are the world's #1. Female devil? Who has the right to compete with you? Screw you. You are the #1 demoness in the world. You make it sound like I really want this title. Mu Yen kicks out, sending Su Qing tumbling to the ground in midair. Only then does she drains the cup of wine in her hand. After she was reborn, she didn't know why, but her alcohol tolerance was especially good. One could drink 1,000 cups of ordinary spirit wine in one go without getting tipsy. Xiaobao did not drink, but because it was too late, he had already fallen asleep in her arms. Mayan lowers her head and kisses him on the forehead, placing him in the space. She then stood up and moved her drunken master and fellow apprentices, who were sprawled on the table and on the floor, to their respective beds. As for the most expensive people in the whole unitary sect, Mu Yen wasn't that polite. One by one, he directly picked them up and threw them into the guest room and made a human pyramid. When all the drunkards have been dealt with, Mu Yen returns to the living room, only to find that Luo Yunxiao is still sitting quietly. Her slender, jade-like hands held the teacup and gently turned it. Probably because of the effect of the spirit wine, a faint blush appeared on her snow-white cheeks. For no reason at all, it actually tainted the originally otherworldly young Master Yunxiao with a bit of smoke and fire. Mu Yen smiles and says, "Junior Master, haven't you drunk enough? It's very late, you should go and rest early." Chapter 23:35. Luo Yunxiao slowly raises his head and stares at her in a daze. After a long time, he slowly responds, "Oh." Then he slowly stands up. Only then does Mu Yen find out what's wrong. Why is the young martial uncle's eyes dull? His reaction seems to be particularly slow. Wait, it can't be. It can't be that even the young martial uncle is drunk. Just as she is thinking about this, she sees Luo Yunxiao taking a step forward. Suddenly, he trips over something, and his whole body falls to the ground. "So annoying, beauty, don't be so enthusiastic." Unfortunately, the one who trips him is Chi-Wen. She doesn't know what kind of sweet dream this guy is having, but he shouts with a wretched face, "Beauty, come, let this uncle's warm embrace melt you." Saying that, his claws go to grab the young martial uncle's spotless white clothes. Mu Yen looks at this scene and almost goes crazy with laughter. It's a pity that she doesn't have a photographic talisman, otherwise, she could record it now and see how Chi-Wen dies tomorrow. And the young martial uncle's face change? It's hilarious just thinking about it. However, before Chi-Wen's claws fall on Luo Yunxiao's body, Luo Yunxiao instinctively unsheathes a sword from his body. The sword light is cold and fierce, the cold gleam flickering. If this cleave goes down, Chi-Wen will definitely be chopped into pieces. Mu Yen is startled. She can no longer watch the show, and quickly rushes over to stop him. Young martial uncle, calm down. This is Chi-Wen, your spiritual pet. You must not kill her. Almost at the same moment when she touches it, the cold sword intent disappears. Luo Yunxiao turns to look at her in a daze. After a long time, his lips open and close and he whispers, Mu Yen, thank the heavens, the young martial uncle is not completely drunk and still recognizes her. Mu Yen, young martial uncle, how are you? Can you go back to the small courtyard by yourself? Do you want me to help you back? Luo Yunxiao slowly withdraws the hand that she is supporting. He shakes his head very, very gently, and very softly murmurs, can't go any closer. Before his voice falls, his figure suddenly disappears. Mu Yen stretches her waist and is about to rest, when suddenly, her eyes focus. There was a red puddle of water where Luo Yunxiao had fallen. She paused for a moment, then stretched out her hand to look at her palm. It was sticky with a hint of gentleness. It was blood. Little martial uncle was injured? Mu Yen quickly rushes to the small courtyard where Luo Yunxiao lives. She walks around and finally finds the drunk Luo Yunxiao by the pond. She helped him back into the room and lit the candle to take a look. Immediately, she gasped. Luo Yunxiao was indeed injured, and her injury was extremely serious. The flesh on the left side of his abdomen was bloody, and there were even signs of decay. Little martial uncle, what injured you? There was even fiendish demonic chi on the wound. Luo Yunxiao's eyes were tightly shut and her brows were slightly furrowed. It was as if she was immersed in pain and a nightmare, unable to wake up. Mayan clenches her teeth, takes out the Tian Mo Qin, and slowly plays it. Art Essence Yellow was activated. A scalpel like the one described in Bailey Liuin's notes gradually appeared on his fingertips. And a needle and thread. Layers of phantom activated. In the room, two figures of Jun Mayan gradually appear, one playing the qin and the other performing surgery. The sound of the qin lingers, and, floating like a dream, turned Luo Yunxiao's nightmare into a beautiful dream. Mayan's hands moved faster and faster, and finally, the demonic qi on Luo Yunxiao's wound was completely cleaned. All of her spiritual power and divine sense were almost exhausted, and her body was so exhausted that she couldn't even sweat. There was a blur in front of her, and Mayan was about to fall backwards. However, the expected pain of hitting the ground didn't come, and her body was embraced into a familiar embrace. Chapter 23:36. However, the owner of this embrace was obviously furious to the extreme. The man's husky voice rings in her ears, as if it contains a volcanic eruption of anger. Jun Mayan, what did you promise me? Mayan turns her head and meets Jun Yen, who's within reach. A brilliant smile blooms on her face. Di Mingju, you're back? She gently hugged the man's slender waist and said softly, I missed you so much. The girl's soft and warm body nestled against his body, accompanied by a sweet fragrance that drilled into his nose. Di Mingju's grave and stern eyes ripple for a moment, as if they're about to turn into spring water. But it's only for a moment, and his face immediately turns cold. He clasps Mayan's shoulders and coldly pushes her away. Don't think that by saying a few nice words, Ben Jun won't settle accounts with you. Mu Yen secretly sticks out her tongue. It's getting harder and harder to please Jun Shangdaran. Facing the man's cold expression and questioning, Mu Yen was not afraid at all. He smiled and said, settle the score? Why do you want to settle the score with me? I don't think I've offended my dear fiancé recently, have I? Di Mingju's cold gaze sweeps over the drunken Luo Yunxiao to the side. Gnashing his teeth, he says, "Did you forget what Ben Jun said? I'm not allowed to be alone with junior martial uncle?" Her long, shapely eyebrows slightly raised, her peach blossom eyes glistening. "But I didn't spend time alone with junior martial uncle." Di Mingju is taken aback. Mu Yen picks up the sleepy Xiaobao from an armchair on the side. Is it considered being alone when there's a third person present? Because of the shaking, little treasure's long eyelashes fluttered, and he slowly opened his eyes. In a daze, he sees Di Mingju's figure. The little guy's eyes immediately widen, and his little hand stretches out towards Di Mingju. "Daddy." Mu Yen shoves Xiaobao into Di Mingju's arms. Xiaobao, who still hasn't fully woken up, naturally hugs Di Mingju's neck. Rubbing his little head against it, he murmurs in a low voice, "Xiaobao misses Daddy." The crisp, soft, and adorable voice. These 5 simple words were obviously extremely lethal. The jealousy in Jun Shangdaren's eyes is completely replaced by gentleness. Mayan lets out a long sigh of relief, giving her darling son a thumbs up in her heart. Fortunately, she was quick-witted. When she was treating little martial uncle just now, Di Mingju's word, "You're not allowed to be alone with little martial uncle," suddenly flashes through Mayan's mind. In her heart, her uncle master was like her master, her family, and the other disciples of the Xiaoyao school. But it's very clear that the crazy jealous Di Mingju doesn't care about this. If this fellow were to catch me alone with my junior martial uncle, and it's even a man and a woman alone in the middle of the night, I'll definitely be tormented to death by him. Di Mingju lets Xiaobao lean on his shoulder and continue to sleep. Only then does he look at Mayan. Without waiting for her to speak, she felt her waist tighten. Mu Yen has been ruthlessly rubbed into the man's arms. Yen, let's go back and settle the rest of the account slowly." Damn, they still want to settle the score? Di Mingju, isn't it just treating Xiao Shishu's illness? Can you be any more narrow-minded? Could it be that he was really jealous of little martial uncle's good looks, just like Qi Huang? The figures of the family of 3 disappeared into the darkness. Even the liveliness in the room slowly dissipated. Lying on the bed, Luo Yunxiao, who was supposed to be drunk and asleep, slowly opens his eyes. He sits up, lowering his head to look at the wound on his abdomen that has already begun to heal. His slender fingers gently caress it, like he's caressing a treasure that will never belong to him. Chapter 23:37. After a long time, he closes his eyes and lies back on the bed. The light-colored thin lips gently hooked up into a shallow arc. The moonlight shines through the window, illuminating the man's peerlessly handsome face. It also reflects the trace of a smile at the corner of his mouth. That trace of hope, cherishing, yearning, an almost desperate smile. Although the jealous Di Jun is very angry. Mu Yen really drank a lot of spirit wine tonight, and she almost used up all her spiritual power to treat Luo Yunxiao. So, as soon as she enters the room, she nestles in Di Mingju's arms and falls asleep with a clear conscience. Di Mingju wants to settle accounts later, but seeing Mu Yan's sweet sleeping face, how can he bear to wake her up? In the end, he just holds her in his arms and gently kisses her forehead. The next day, Di Mingju doesn't even have a reason to be angry. Because Luo Yunxiao only left some ancient books and array discs, and then left without saying goodbye. And these things are not for Mu Yen alone. Everyone in the Xiaoyao sect has a share. But the share left for Mu Yen is a little more. But that's also because in the Xiaoyao sect, only Mu Yan's teacher is Luo Yunxiao. Whether it's swordsmanship or talismans, Luo Yunxiao is the real master who taught Mu Yen and introduced her into the sect. Thinking that young master left without saying goodbye again, and they don't know when they will meet again, everyone in the Xiaoyao sect is a little disappointed. Mu Yen points at Di Mingju's chest and snappily says, "You still have the nerve to be suspicious, thinking that young master has ulterior motives towards me. Don't you see that young master is avoiding us like snakes and scorpions?" Di Mingju sneers and doesn't speak. Avoiding like snakes and scorpions? A person's behavior can lie, but a person's eyes can never deceive people. Luo Yunxiao looks at Mu Yan's eyes. Does she really think that he can't see it? But she does deliberately avoid him, so Di Mingju doesn't act out. Mu Yan sighs softly. In fact, young master is a very soft-hearted person, and he treats everyone in the Xiaoyao sect very well. But I don't know why, but I force myself to harden my heart, as if I can't wait to cut off all relations with everyone in the world. It's too lonely to live like this. It's too hard. Di Mingju's heart turns sour. I've never seen you care about whether I'm lonely or having a hard time. Mayan bursts into laughter. Glancing at him, she says as if it's a matter of course, why should I care if you're lonely or tired? The bitterness in his heart turned into a flame of jealousy. Jun Mayan, you really treat that pretty boy better than Ben Jun. He watches as Mayan gently grabs his hand, saying one word at a time. Di Mingju, for the rest of your life, Xiaobao and I will accompany you. How could we let you be lonely and suffer? The flames of jealousy and bitterness were instantly extinguished. Furthermore, it was extinguished with honey water. Despite Jun Shangdaren's efforts to suppress it, he still can't stop the corners of his mouth from rising. Looking at his tsundere appearance, Mu Yan increasingly feels that he's very much like Xiaobao. Moreover, this is the appearance that Di Mingju will only show to her, Jun Mayan, and will never let others see it. Thinking of this, it's as if a fire is burning in her heart. It's hot and full of this man's figure. She hooks Di Mingju's lapel, forcing him to bend down. She gently presses her lips against his. Jun Shangdren, are you still jealous? Di Mingju responds by turning from guest to host. He grabs her red lips and fiercely kisses them. Chapter 23:38. Junior sister, the sword you brought out of the underground palace is so powerful. The door opens with a bang, and the people of the Xiaoyao school burst in. When they see the scene inside, they immediately stiffen. We didn't see anything. Mentor Mo, junior sister, continue. Mayan isn't shy at all. In any case, it's not like she hasn't done something like declaring her ownership of Di Mingju in front of everyone. As for Di Mingju, he can't wait to declare his relationship with Mayan to the whole world. Shyness? Embarrassment? What is that? Di Jun says that it doesn't exist. Best quality artifact? Quasi-heavenly artifact? Di Mingju takes the Ice Soul Sword, looks at it casually, and says lightly, it's barely worth something. This, barely, Jun Shangdaren is really reluctant to say it. In the Xiuxin continent, artifacts are everywhere, and heavenly artifacts are as many as dogs. A mere quasi-heavenly artifact really can't enter Di Mingju's eyes. But this is referring to the Xiuxin continent, and there's no way to bring things from the Xiuxin continent to the Xiuxin continent. And the lowest level artifact on the Xiuxin continent is almost a heaven-defying existence. So, Di Mingju adds, for the time being I'll just use it. It's actually a artifact, and a quasi-heavenly artifact at that. Junior sister, you're going against the heavens. Entering a secret territory, you casually took it out, and it's such a heaven-defying treasure. Mayan smiles, and hands the Ice Soul Sword to Yun Ruhen, eldest brother, this sword is for you. How can this be? Yun Ruhen repeatedly waves her hands, this is an artifact. Mayan spreads out her hands, but in our Xiaoyao school, only you, eldest brother, use a sword. Junior sister, aren't you also? Before he can finish speaking, Mayan flips her wrist, and the Tian Emochin transforms into the 7 absolute swords, immediately shutting Yun Ruhen up. Well, although they're ignorant and inexperienced, but they can also feel how powerful and terrifying the 7 absolute swords of their junior sister and Xiaobao's Bixia sword are. They can't even be simply classified as artifact grades. Luo Yu grinned and said, eldest senior brother, just take it. Your Mountain Sea domain has already evolved to the profound ice attribute. This Ice Soul Sword is practically tailor-made for you. Yeah. Eldest senior brother, why are you worried about junior sister? Let's not talk about the fact that she has the 7 absolute swords. Even if she didn't, would instructor Mo be short of her? In the end, Yun Ruhan still accepted the Ice Soul Sword. As soon as the sword hilt touched his hand, he felt a strong suction force coming from the sword, sucking in his spiritual power. Yun Ruhan's eyes lit up and she threw out an array disc that Luo Yunxiao had given her. It was the blood-slaughtering sword formation formed from over 100 sword qis. However, Yun Ruhan was able to maneuver through the sword formation with ease, even though it had previously been difficult for her to deal with the sword formation. Eldest senior brother has become much stronger, Mu Yan exclaimed. However, when he turned around, he discovered that Xiaobao was staring at him in a daze. Xiaobao's big eyes were filled with disappointment. Xiaobao, what's wrong? Xiaobao held the Bixia sword tightly in his hand and murmured in a low voice. Xiaobao also wants to become stronger. I wanted to protect mother and martial uncles. Mu Yan's heart suddenly shook, and a sour feeling welled up in her heart. She still remembered that when Xiaobao had just come out of the Fuxi secret realm, his strength was almost equal to that of her senior brother and the others. However, because Xiaobao achieved an immortal body in the Fuxi secret realm. Chapter 2339. On the Xiuzhen continent, immortal energy is so scarce that his cultivation has stagnated. Even if Mayan has tried her best, even if she keeps improving and refining elixirs. But it's only a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. She knows how strong this child is, how sensible he is, and how much he wants to protect her. These days, Xiaobao doesn't say anything and doesn't show it. But he must be sad and disappointed at the bottom of his heart. Mayan returns to her room with a heavy heart. As soon as the door closes, Di Mingju pulls her into his arms. The man's voice is magnetic and gentle. Yen Yen, do you remember that before you went to the Woodfern secret territory, you asked me how to let Xiaobao's immortal body cultivate? Mayan's eyes suddenly brighten. You have a way? Di Mingju gently nods, his pair of eyes unblinking as he looks at her. On the road of cultivation, immortal energy is scarce, and it also contains a certain amount of desolate energy. This desolate energy may not be much for ordinary cultivators, but for an immortal physique, it will gradually cause fatal damage. Mayan's mind buzzes, the words that Bailey Yinlu once said reverberate in her ears. In this Yanwu continent, where there is no spiritual energy, an immortal body cannot live past the age of 10. Even if he goes to the upper realm of the Yanwu continent, he can only struggle at death's door for another 2 or 3 years. The immortal body is the world's purest spiritual body. In the Xiuxian continent, his cultivation speed can be 100 times faster than others. But in the Yanwu continent and the Xiuzhen continent, where the spiritual energy is heterogeneous and even barren, he will only decline day by day until he dies. Her face turns pale inch by inch, and her body and hands tremble uncontrollably. Ever since she ascended to the Xiuzhen continent, her days have been too smooth. So much so that she forgot that the shadow of death has always surrounded her most cherished baby. Di Mingju. Mayan's hands tremble, and she firmly grabs Di Mingju's sleeve. Di Mingju, save Xiaobao. How can I save Xiaobao? I must not let anything happen to Xiaobao. Even if the sky falls and the earth shatters, even if her soul flies and scatters, never to be reincarnated in this life, she will never allow anything to happen to her Xiaobao. Don't be afraid. Di Mingju holds her tightly in his arms. Xiaobao is also my son. How could I let anything happen to him? He paused for a moment before he continued. If you want little Bao to be safe and strong, then there's only one way. Di Mingju releases Mayan and looks straight into her eyes. His voice is soft. Yanyan, you're so smart, you must have already guessed it. Mayan's eyes surge with turbulent emotions. Yes, she had guessed it. He wanted Xiaobao to be able to continue cultivating. He wanted his immortal physique to not be harmed. There was only one way. That is, let Di Mingju take Xiaobao to the Xiuxian continent. However, that was her most treasured child. She had carried him for 10 months and gone through untold hardships to protect him. Ever since Xiaobao was born, they had never been separated for a long period of time. Even if she was forced to be separated when she first entered the cultivation continent, at least she had a target to look for, and the little phoenix clone could sense her to comfort her. But now, Xiaobao was going to the Xiuxin continent. That was a place that she couldn't reach even if she exhausted all of her abilities. It was another continent that the little phoenix clone couldn't sense. How could she be willing to part with him? Yanyan, I know you can't bear to. Di Mingju softly kisses the space between her brows. Chapter 2340. Di Mingju, but Xiaobao is a boy, and is the future master of the polar domain. He has the heart to become strong, and he must become strong. I promise you, I'll make sure he's safe. Mayan closes her eyes. When she opens them again, the weakness in her eyes has already been replaced by tenacity and determination. She had never been a sloppy person, although reluctant, although helpless. But once he made up his mind, he would not allow himself to hesitate. Di Mingju, I have a request. Before she could finish her words, Di Mingju ruthlessly pushes her into his arms and bites her lips. Jun Mayan, you're asking me for a favor? Mayan smiles. I hope that Xiaobao's existence won't be known to anyone other than Han Yi and the others for the time being. After all, Xiaobao isn't Di Mingju's flesh and blood. Although she doesn't care about the past, she knows that Di Mingju's love for Xiaobao is sincere. But if the people of the polar domain knew Xiaobao's identity, would they really not have any ill feelings? She could ignore the gossip, but Xiaobao could not. If there came a day when she and Xiaobao entered the polar domain, they would definitely walk in openly. Di Mingju snorts coldly, there's no need for you to say that. Ben Jun has already specially built a small world for him, and Star Wolf and defeating armies will take turns guarding it. Jun Mayan, who do you think Ben Jun has been rushing back and forth these days for? Mayan lets out a low laugh, her whole body snuggling into his embrace. She softly says, Di Mingju, you're becoming more and more like a father. Humph. This monarch is your husband, Little Treasure's father. It would be even better if the word unmarried could be removed as soon as possible. Di Mingju, did I say that? What? Meeting you is the luckiest thing in my life. At daybreak, Ling Yusheng finished cleaning up and entered the kitchen, intending to prepare breakfast for his fellow disciples. However, he discovered that a figure was busy working inside. Ling Yusheng thought that Shi Qing was here to steal his wine again, so he couldn't help but say, Master, you're not young anymore. If you drink too much, before he could finish his last word, his voice stopped abruptly. Ling Yusheng rubbed his eyes again and again. Little junior sister. The girl standing in front of the stove turned around, revealing a face that was covered in soot, but still couldn't hide her beauty. Who else could it be but Mu Yan? Ling Yusheng looked at the sky, then looked at the ground, and couldn't help but pinch his eyes. Junior sister is cooking. He couldn't still be dreaming, right? Bang! The people of the Xiaoyao sect were still sleeping soundly when suddenly a huge explosion was heard. Everyone was roused from their dreams. What happened? Did the lunar beasts escape? An enemy sneak attack. They hurriedly ran out, only to find that the place that had been blown up was the kitchen. Thick smoke billowed out from inside. Two figures rushed out of the thick smoke in a sorry state. Isn't that little Five? And little junior sister? What did they do? Could it be that junior sister is concocting pills in the kitchen? The few of them rushed over and asked with concern, Little Five, little junior sister, are you all right? Cough, it's nothing. Mu Yan waved her hand. Ling Yusheng wiped away the soot on his face. He wanted to say something but then hesitated. Little junior sister, I think you shouldn't, don't learn. What kind of noodles do you want to cook? I'll make it for you. Zhajiang noodles, plain noodles, oily noodles, knife-shaved noodles, any kind of noodles will do. I only ask that you don't mess with this poor kitchen. Chapter 2341. What? Cooking noodles? Yun Ruhan and the others are dumbfounded. Didn't little sister say that she wasn't good at cooking and needlework? Why did she suddenly want to cook noodles today? No, no, no. How can little sister's cooking skills be described as not good? Lung Yuma says in horror, that's simply a lethal thunderbolt. At that time, we were too stupid and naive, so we asked little sister to help us roast a red-haired pig. As a result, little sister blew up most of the cave that we temporarily lived in, almost burying us inside. Yes, that's not the most important thing. Luo Yu adds, the most important thing is that the things that sixth sister cooks can no longer be regarded as food. It's even more terrible than poison. Xiao Bao, don't you think so? Xiao Bao blinks. At that time, he and his mother lived together in the mountain forest. His mother occasionally tried to cook, but in the end, she refused to let him eat the black stuff, threw it aside, and poisoned a black bear to death. Even Mu Yan's diehard supporter, Xiao Bao, is speechless. It's clear how lethal Mu Yan's cooking is. Even Yun Ruhen, who has always been calm, can't help but say, "Cough, little sister, I think you shouldn't cook. What do you want to eat? Big brother will invite you to the shop at the foot of the mountain." Mu Yan only faintly smiles and softly says, "I want to cook this bowl of noodles myself." Saying that, she doesn't wait for anyone to speak and goes straight to the smoke-filled kitchen. However, before she can enter, she is embraced into a familiar embrace. When the people of the Xiaoyao sect see that it was Di Mingju who stopped Mu Yan, they immediately feel relieved. Fortunately, Instructor Mo is here. He will definitely be able to persuade little sister. Mu Yan looks up at Di Mingju and opens her mouth to speak. But she sees Di Mingju take her hand and then gently raise it into the air. The smoke dissipates and a brand new kitchen appears. "Yen Yen, you want to learn how to cook noodles? I'll teach you." Xiao Bao rushes over and says, "Nyangqin, Xiao Bao can also help you." Mu Yan crouches down, gently strokes Xiao Bao's face and whispers, "Xiao Bao, be obedient and wait on the side, okay? Nyangqin wants to cook this bowl of noodles myself. For you." Xiao Bao pouted, feeling wronged, but in the end he still obediently stood to the side. Afterwards, the people of the Xiaoyao sect gaped as they watched their emperor-like teacher Mo teach their junior sister how to cook noodles. It was supposed to be the simplest cooking process. However, perhaps no one is perfect. Mu Yan's talent in cooking has simply reached a tragic level. The kitchen is blown up again and again, and Di Mingju returns it to its original state every time. The two of them cooked from early morning until the sun was high in the sky. The people of the Xiaoyao sect couldn't help but be shocked. In the past, they only knew that teacher Mo and little junior sister were a match made in heaven. However, he was still worried. The little apprentice sister has a child from the Yanwu continent. As for Instructor Mo, his status was high and mighty even in the Xiuxin continent. Could these two really walk to the end? However, at this moment, no one from the Xiaoyao sect had any doubts. A man, high and mighty, sitting on the world's power. If he didn't love his junior sister dearly, why would he be willing to accompany her to wash hands and cook soup? Finally, it was noon. Mu Yan makes the first bowl of longevity noodles, which is barely acceptable. She puts the noodles on the table outside, then turns around to pick up Xiao Bao and places him in front of the table. Chapter 2342. Mayan's gaze is filled with infinite love and reluctance as she looks at the little person in front of her. Xiaobao, Nyangqin is very stupid and useless. She can't even make a simple bowl of longevity noodles. But before your 6th birthday, Mother wants to personally make a bowl of longevity noodles for you. Would you like to try it? Xiaobao stares at Mu Yan in a daze. Sparkling and translucent tears slowly accumulate in his big ice-blue eyes. Tears gathered under her long eyelashes. It dripped down with a pitter-patter. Drop after drop, it was clearly soundless, but it felt like it was pounding heavily on one's heart. Xiaobao pouted and choked with sobs. "Mother, you know?" Mu Yan holds Xiaobao's face and gently wipes away the tears on his little face. Nyangqin is very reluctant to part with Xiaobao, but I also hope that Xiaobao can be happy and become stronger. The immortal cultivation continent is filled with immortal qi. You can truly cultivate there instead of being trapped here. At this point, her voice became hoarse and she could no longer continue smoothly. Tears unknowingly slid down her cheeks. Xiaobao couldn't bear it anymore. He burst into tears and threw himself into her arms. "Mother, I don't want to leave you." Xiaobao wants to always be with his mother. "Mother, I won't leave, okay?" Mayan tightly hugs Xiaobao's gently trembling body, tears bursting out of her eyes. In her previous life, because of the carelessness of her trusted aide, she lost her baby. In this life, Mu Yan has always regarded Xiaobao as an eyeball, guarding and protecting him. It could be said that in the beginning, Xiaobao was her only faith and hope to continue living. Moreover, Xiaobao was still so young. It wasn't even her 6th birthday yet. Other children at this age were still carefree and only knew how to act spoiled in front of their parents. If possible, Mu Yan really wants to cast aside all her worries and tell Xiaobao, "Nyangqin will never be separated from you." She was even willing to give up the possibility of climbing to the peak and follow Di Mingju back to the polar domain without having an immortal body. However, she swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. She remembers Di Mingju's forbearance. He clearly longed to take her away, and he clearly worried about her, but he never forced himself to return to the polar domain with him. She remembered the vows and longings of the past. He had to do everything he could to become stronger, until he had the ability to protect all the people he cared about. "Little treasure." Mu Yan gently caresses the back of the child's soft neck and softly says, "Nyangqin is also reluctant to part with you and doesn't want to be separated from you. But Mother hopes that one day, we and Father can be together as a family forever. No one can ever separate us again." She didn't know if it was her words or her gentle touch, but Xiaobao's emotional collapse was finally calmed down. Her sobbing body stopped shaking. Xiaobao raises his head, his bright red eyes still stained with tears look at Mayan, then he looks at Di Mingju. She grabbed both of them with her small hands and sobbed, "Xiaobao, be good. Xiaobao, don't cry." Xiaobao wants to become stronger and not be a burden to father and mother. His stubborn little face was filled with tenacity and persistence that a 5-year-old child would never have. But he was still too young, and his feelings for Mu Yan were so deep. As soon as he finished speaking, he could not help but tear up again. Not to mention Mu Yan, even the members of the Xiaoyao sect couldn't help but feel their hearts ache and their eyes redden. Xiaobao realized that he was crying out of disobedience again, so he hurriedly wiped his tears away. His small body suddenly soared into the air. Chapter 23:43. Di Mingju holds him in his arms with a look of disgust, but gently wipes away the tears on his face. With a calm face, he says, "You're a man, why are you crying? As long as you concentrate on cultivating in the small world that Ben Jun has set up for you, you can pass the test in a year and a half. If you pass, as a reward, Ben Jun will bring you down to see your mother." He speaks calmly and indifferently, but the jealousy in his heart is simply overflowing. Jun Mayan has no conscience. Every time he leaves, this woman acts as if nothing happened, without the slightest bit of reluctance. Compared to her reluctance to part with Xiaobao now. This differential treatment, Jun Shangduran feels as if his heart has been pierced through. Xiaobao stares blankly, his eyes suddenly widening as he looks at Di Mingju. "Daddy, as long as I pass the test, I can see Mother? When did Ben Jun lie to you?" Di Mingju snorts. "But don't blame Ben Jun for not reminding you, even a golden immortal can't pass that test within a year, let alone a 4th-rank hollow immortal like you." However, Di Mingju's cold water doesn't affect Xiaobao at all. The bitterness and reluctance in his eyes are suddenly replaced by a burning, fighting spirit. The little body struggles into Mayan's arms and says excitedly, "Mother, Xiaobao will quickly pass the test. Then let Daddy bring Xiaobao to see Mother." A smile also floats up on Mayan's face. She reaches out and gently scratches the tip of Xiaobao's nose. Perhaps Mother has ascended to find Xiaobao first? Otherwise, let's make a bet to see who will find the other first? Xiaobao stares blankly, then the last bit of haze and sadness on his little face completely disappears. The little fists are tightly clenched and he nods heavily. Xiaobao will work hard 100 times, 1,000 times harder, then let daddy bring him to find mother. Quietly making a vow in his heart, Xiaobao gets down from Mayan's arms and gobbles up the noodles that Mayan cooked. Seeing him eating happily, Luo Yu can't help but ask, Xiaobao baby, is the noodles cooked by 6th senior sister delicious? Xiaobao raises his head with a straight face and gently shakes his head, not delicious. Then, a shallow smile slowly appears on his little face, but Xiaobao likes it the most. Heavens! The people of the Xiaoyao sect are about to faint from this smile. Baby Belle, do you know that you have the potential to charm all living things at such a young age? The atmosphere of the Xiaoyao sect became joyful again. Ling Yusheng rolled up his sleeves and prepared to show off his skills by cooking a sumptuous feast for Xiaobao. Lung Yuma and the rest surrounded their treasured martial nephew who was about to leave and gave him gifts. It seemed like he wished for nothing more than to offer all of his treasures to Xiaobao. Mu Yen quietly arrives outside the kitchen and gently hugs Di Mingju from behind. Thank you, Di Mingju. Di Mingju snorts coldly, turning around to rub the person into his arms. Ben Jun wants your thanks? Mayan chuckles. Di Mingju, I'll tell you a secret? Saying that, she pulled the man's sleeve, motioning him to bend down. Di Mingju has a tsundere expression of, if you want to say it, then Ben Jun will just listen. He leans over and presses his ear to Mayan's lips. The next moment, he felt a warm breath on his earlobe. Something soft and wet even licks his ear. Jun Shangdaran, who has always been aloof or shameless, almost explodes. Chapter 2344. His handsome face flushes red, and he growls, Jun Mayan. The corner of Mayan's mouth curls up, revealing a sly smile like a little fox. What's wrong? My dear fiancé? Di Mingju's eyes turn from anger to a deep and scorching heat. He holds the back of her neck, about to kiss her. He wants this little girl to know the consequences of playing with fire. However, before he can capture those bright red and soft lips, he hears the girl's soft voice slowly echoing in his ears. Actually, every time you leave, I'm very reluctant to part with you. Di Mingju stares blankly, his body stiffening. I often dream of you, wondering when you will come to see me, wondering if you have already forgotten me. Di Mingju's eyes turn cold. He wants to speak, but Mayan stops him. He listens to her continue. When I saw the illusion of you falling in love with someone else in the underground palace, and saw other women coveting you, I even had a terrible thought. Wait until I'm strong, I want to lock you by my side, and brand you with my brand. Only me and Xiaobao can see you, and no one else can covet you. The girl uses a voice as soft as the sounds of nature, but the words she says are frighteningly domineering. But in a split second, Di Mingju's eyes are filled with gentle joy and love. Grabbing the small hand covering his mouth, Di Mingju strives to maintain a cold and aloof expression. What are you saying this for? You are destined to belong to Ben Jun. Ben Jun naturally belongs to you. That is an indisputable fact. Mayan looks at his tsundere appearance and bursts out laughing. I thought that Jun Shangdaran was jealous of Xiaobao and felt that I didn't miss you enough and was reluctant to part with you? So, I specifically came to explain my feelings to you. Are you happy now? The expression on Di Mingju's face suddenly freezes. The smile on Mayan's face deepens, and she gently hooks her hand around his neck. Her lips press against his, and she whispers, Di Mingju, not only am I reluctant to part with Xiaobao, I am also reluctant to part with you. Every time we haven't parted, I already start to miss you. Before she could finish speaking, she is already firmly pressed into Di Mingju's arms, swallowing up all her words and breath. The small world of the Xiuxing continent has been properly prepared, and every operation consumes a huge amount of resources. No matter how reluctant she is, Mayan can only part with Xiaobao and Di Mingju. This time, Xiaobao took away the fat rabbit and Bai Xie, but left the little phoenix ball for Mu Yen. Qiuqiu's doppelganger ability was of great help to Mu Yen. Moreover, Qiuqiu was different from the fat rabbit. It had signed a contract with Xiaobao through its soul. Therefore, little Phoenix didn't need to cultivate. As long as Xiaobao became stronger, its strength would also naturally increase. Until one day, he could condense a true phoenix body. When little Phoenix saw that he was about to be abandoned by his little big brother again, he cried nonstop. But in the end, she couldn't bear to part with her beautiful big sister and the little chick, so under Xiaobao's consolation, she obediently stayed. Looking at Di Mingju and Xiaobao's disappearing figures, Mu Yen sighs softly. Junior sister, don't worry. With Teacher Mo here, Lil Bao will definitely be fine. Mu Yen smiled and raised her spirit. Eldest senior brother, what are your plans next? Yun Ruhan pondered for a moment before saying, this time's breakthrough was too hasty. I and number 2 need to meditate and cultivate, and stabilize our realms. In fact, it wasn't just Yun Ruhan and Qin Jiao. The Xiao Yao Seven Sons' progress during this time could be said to be advancing by leaps and bounds. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.